Welcome to Tri-Friend Heroes, a Legend of Zelda podcast. I'm Ellen.
I'm Kayla.
And I'm Cosm.
And today we're discussing The Legend of Zelda, The Wind Waker.
Woo woo! Oh wait, sorry, no, that's a train sound. Wrong game.
Woo woo! Save that for Spirit Tracks.
Whoosh whoosh.
Yeah, like a wind sound.
Mm-hmm.
In this game, it's little Link's birthday, and it takes a turn when his sister gets kidnapped. We set sail from a certain island where it's become customary to clothe boys who've come of age in the green of the fields, just like the hero of Time were when he cast out evil all those years ago. But that's just a legend, right?
Oh, that was directed at us. Yeah, yes, just a legend.
Of course. This critically acclaimed game was released in 2002, so happy 20th anniversary to this game, which blew my mind when I read it while I was preparing, for this podcast, which means we're old.
Probably pretty close to its actual anniversary. It probably came out for Christmas.
It came out in the summer.
Please hold.
Only because I thought I got Master Quest and that came with the pre-order over the summer, right?
Quest was released in advance, though, I think.
It was in advance.
If I'm not mistaken.
Released in Japan in December 2002 and North America in March 2003.
Oh,
Okay, so maybe you did get it in the summer because it came out in March in North America. But yeah. This is the first time I didn't say what month. Now I'm having regrets about my laziness.
It's like, remember when popular games came out months apart in Japan and other parts of the world?
I know. And now it's just like, comes out, downloads to your system automatically if you like pre-order it, and like you can play it in any language from day one. Or maybe not any language, but in multiple languages from day one. So yeah, it's a different time. But even like, I'm pretty sure Ocarina of Time, one of the games that we already talked about, was all released at the same time or within like a few
a month or something. Yeah.
So like it had already been like they were already producing it. Yeah, I think it was Ocarina of Time because they were already producing the ones with the like sound that was then changed and stuff like that. So yeah, I actually didn't see if they like sanitized things or anything out of this game, but I don't think so. I think they stopped doing that after Link to the Past. But
I don't think there's be much to do in this game.
Well, I do know that for the GameCube version, the Japanese version has different physics engines and stuff. Like things have changed. What? Well, I mean that sounds dramatic, but like there are certain things that you can do in the Japanese version that was fixed in the other releases.
Oh, because it was like a bug.
Yeah, they usually make some changes like that.
They definitely updated it for the non-Japanese releases. So it was more than just the translation, but to what degree, I don't know. Beyond that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yep.
I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, this game sold 4.43 million copies, which sounds like a lot, but it's like half of Ocarina of Time, because Ocarina of Time was like 7.6, and Twilight Princess, which came out later, a few years later, and was the next like 3D game of the series, sold like 8.8. So this is probably due to the mixed fan reception, which we can talk about.
Yeah. The GameCube also wasn't a very well-sold console compared to Nintendo's others. And
also, I think it's partially because it was released around the same time as the Xbox and the PlayStation 2.
Yeah, the PlayStation 2, the 2. Best-selling console ever.
And it lasted for years and years and years.
Which is a shame, because the GameCube's a great console.
Yeah.
This is my seamless segue to you, Kayla.
Okay.
I'm ready.
So Wind Waker begins with a legend, one that should be very familiar to us, about a prosperous kingdom that hid a golden power, the evil that tried to take that power, and the boy who leapt through time to defeat him. That boy was given the title the Hero of Time, and his tale was passed down the generations until it became legend. So when that same evil rose again to threaten the kingdom, the people believed the Hero of Time would return to save them, but he never appeared. As the kingdom fell to ruin, the people could do nothing but pray to the gods and leave their future up to fate. Today, many hundreds of years later, none who know what became of that kingdom remain, but the hero's legend still lingers. And on one particular island within a vast sea, it became tradition to dress boys in the hero's green clothes when they came of age. And on that island, a young boy named Link is about to celebrate his birthday. Our not-so-legendary hero is woken up by his little sister, Aril, and sent to see their grandma, who gives him the traditional hero's clothes. Link isn't super psyched about this, probably because he had to change out of his cool crawfish shirt. But he goes along with it and goes back out to meet up with his sister again. She gives him temporary use of her prized telescope, and when Link tries it out, he spots something rather unusual. A giant monstrous bird with an unconscious girl gripped in its talons. Also pretty odd, the bird is being pursued by a pirate ship firing its cannons at it. The pirates eventually manage to hit the bird, causing it to drop the girl on the island's cliffs. And Link, being a good boy, immediately goes to get a sword from the local retired warrior and hurries off to save her. Every town has one.
Yeah. And then you have to have a Fu Manchu. That's the requirement.
It's the local retired warrior laws.
Yeah.
The girl, named Tetra, isn't super impressed by the rescue attempt, but she does return the favor a bit by keeping Link from charging right off a cliff to his death when the monster bird returns and snatches up Auril instead. Link asks to get a ride with Tetra and her pirates to go and save his sister, which Tetra reluctantly agrees to once it's pointed out that the bird almost certainly mistook Auril for her, so the kidnapping is kinda her fault. They take him to the Forsaken Fortress, a place with extremely bad vibes where the monster bird makes its nest. I wrote bad vibes in capitals, by the way.
Nice.
I laughed. I was just muted.
Spotlights make it impossible for the ship to get very close, but it's okay because Tetra has a brilliant plan to get Link inside. Stuff him in a barrel and launch him at high speed over the walls. This does indeed get Link into the fortress, though in addition to the probable concussion, he also loses his sword in the process, forcing him to stealth his way through most of the dungeon. He eventually retrieves his sword and even finds the room where his sister is being held, but unfortunately the bird has been alerted to Link's presence, and it snatches him up before he can do anything. It flies Link to the top of the fortress, where an ominous-looking man in a dark cloak observes the boy silently for a moment, before coolly gesturing for the bird to toss him far away into the sea. Link astoundingly survives this, and is then further saved from death by drowning or exposure by a boat. Not a person on a boat, the boat itself. This boat, who is very proud of being the only talking boat in the world, introduces himself as the King of Red Lions, and lightly scolds Link for his ill-prepared charge on the Forsaken Fortress. He explains that the shadowy figure Link saw there is known as Ganon, the same evil force from the ancient legends. Somehow the seal of the gods he was under has failed, allowing Ganon to threaten the world once again. If Link wishes to defeat him and save his sister, he will need to go through much toil to gain a great power capable of challenging Ganon. The King of Red Lions first leads Link out onto the Great Sea to collect the 3 pearls of the goddesses from the guardian spirits protecting them. The first 2 go smoothly enough. He gains Din's Pearl from the Rito people after helping them in their sky spirit Valoo, then the second, Ferori's Pearl, after helping the Great Deku Tree and the Koroks. But when they go to seek Nehru's Pearl from the spirit Jabun, they find that his island of residence is completely destroyed. Ganon's power is growing ever stronger. Fortunately, Jabun survived the attack and was able to flee to a safer hiding spot, which happens to be in a sealed cave on Link's home island of Outset. With a little inadvertent help from Tetra's pirate crew, Link is able to break through the sealed cave and get the final pearl from Jabun. With all 3 pearls in his possession, the King of Red Lions directs Link to place them in special altars across the sea, which causes a grand ancient structure known as the Tower of the Gods to rise from the depths. This is a testing ground, where Link must prove his courage and worth as a true hero. Link succeeds, and this acknowledgement by the gods opens up a portal of light on the surface of the ocean. The King of Red Lions takes them inside, and they sink far below the waves to a long-forgotten castle in a sealed kingdom beneath the sea. The King of Red Lions does not explain where they are, simply sends Link into the castle to retrieve the item held inside, which he says will be able to strike down Ganon. Link enters the castle, which seems to be frozen in time at the moment of a terrible attack. Colors are dulled, and Ganon's soldiers stand frozen all around, as Link discovers and enters the castle's hidden chamber. Within, Link finds a sword on a grand pedestal. The Master Sword, the Blade of Evil's Bane. The King of Red Lions instructs Link to take it, and when he pulls the sword free, color and life flood back into the castle, forcing Link to fight his way through the attacking army to make it back to the surface world. With the Master Sword in hand, Link once again makes for the Forsaken Fortress. He fights his way back to the room where his sister is being held, and Tetra and her pirates arrive to take the girl to safety, while Link faces off against the monstrous bird who took her. He is victorious this time, but things take a turn for the worse when he reaches Ganon. Ganon points out to him that the return of life and color when Link pulled the Master Sword was more than just symbolism. The sword had also been the key to the seal on Ganon's magic, and removing it has restored his power. Ganon easily knocks Link aside, and he is only saved from immediate death by the arrival of Tetra, who manages to briefly distract Ganon before being grabbed herself. But then something unexpected happens, and Ganon's Triforce of Power reacts to Tetra's presence. With a menacing grin, he declares that he has finally found Princess Zelda. Yes, gasp. Tetra is very confused by this, but before anyone can get into what any of this means, some of Link's Rito friends arrive to quickly grab him and Tetra and carry them off to safety, while the Sky Spirit Valoo torches Ganon's stronghold with his fiery breath. Back at the Tower of the Gods, the King of Red Lions urgently directs Link and Tetra back to the kingdom below, and tells them both to go back to the Master Sword Chamber. There they discover a man who explains to them that they are standing in Hyrule, the ancient fallen kingdom from the legends, and that he is its king, as well as the spirit within the King of Red Lions who has been guiding Link. He also reveals that Tetra is indeed the descendant of his royal line. She holds a piece of the Triforce of Wisdom, which has been passed down and protected through generations, and the king holds the other piece. When those pieces fuse, Tetra's lineage is fully revealed. The king asks her to stay here, safely hidden from Ganon, while he and Link return to the surface to seek a way to defeat him. Back up above, the king explains that the Master Sword has lost its power to repel evil, which means that something must have happened to the sages who originally infused the blade with that power. He directs Link to go to the Earth and Wind temples, where he meets with the spirits of the sages, who were indeed cut down by Ganon's forces. They tell Link to seek out their descendants and awaken them as sages, so that they can restore the Master Sword's power. These descendants turn out to be two beings that Link already knows well, the Rito Medley and the Korok Makar. Link travels through the Earth and Wind temples with their help, bringing them to the altars where they are able to restore the Master Sword's power. After this, Link must assemble the shattered Triforce of Courage, upon which he is given the title the Hero of Winds, and the gods open the portal to Hyrule once again. But this reveals something terrible. Ganon has already broken into the hidden chamber and stolen Tetra/Zelda.
Is she Tetra or is she Zelda? I don't know. Questions.
Yeah. It's like she clearly still thinks of herself as Tetra, but then, like, everyone's referring to her as Zelda after that point.
Yeah, until then, which you haven't gotten to yet. And they're like, now you're Tetra again. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
so just for a second? Okay.
Yeah, it's probably something to be said. We were talking a bit about, like, Ganon versus Ganondorf in this game. There's probably something to be said about, like, the use of names and titles and stuff.
Probably.
But anyway, but Link is finally ready to confront Ganon for the last time. Link makes his way through Ganon's tower lair, which had also been hidden beneath the waves, defeating all obstacles in his path. Atop the tower, Ganon attacks Link to steal his Triforce of Courage, which he combines with his own Triforce of Power and the Triforce of Wisdom he's already taken from Zelda, and he brings forth the completed Triforce. He waxes philosophical for a bit and explains the power of the Triforce to grant a wish to whoever touches it, and how he wants to restore the kingdom of Hyrule and make it his. But while he was getting all dramatic, the King of Hyrule snuck in and placed his hand on the Triforce first, and he makes a different wish: to wash away Hyrule and all its lingering memories and miseries, and to grant hope and future to Link, Tetra, and all those above. The gods hear this wish and grant it, and water begins to flood down into the once sealed kingdom. Ganon laughs madly at his lost chance, then turns to attack Link in a rage. With Tetra's help, Link defeats Ganon, rather brutally driving the Master Sword into his skull, which seals him in stone in the Drowning Kingdom. The king chooses to stay below as well, saying that he was just as stuck in the memory of old Hyrule as Ganon was, and he sends Link and Tetra back to the surface, bidding them to live for the future. Up above, they reunite with their friends and family, and soon they sail forth to seek out new lands and a new future. That's the end. Yay.
Yay!
All right.
It was a good game. Listen.
It was very good.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I liked stabbing Ganon in the head.
Yeah.
That was a good
Oh,
time.
very satisfying.
So he's like, even when I know it's coming, I'm always just like, oh.
Oh, God. Well, it's because it's like you do like a normal parry, and then it just is like this crazy cutscene where you just jump up and stab him in the brain. Like, I thought the last battle was really cool. I liked that Tetra, aka Zelda, aka Tetra, was involved in the last fight. Like, she actually shoots the arrows, which is pretty cool. Zelda was there in the Ocarina of Time final fight.
But she just kind of stood there and was like, hey, Link, your sword.
I mean, she kind of does the same.
And then halfway through,
Yeah.
she does do the same thing for the
Well, like
part of it.
I mean,
battle,
it's sort of like when she like holds him down with the power of light or whatever, so you can stab him.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like it's very a similar role with trying to shoot him with the light arrows. Like, I don't
it's
know.
But
definitely
you have to actually
like, kind of a callback to that.
It is, but she actually shoots, and you have to actually work with her.
Yeah, it's cool to have Tetra more involved in it.
Yeah, back up.
It's also a very cinematic fight with the water pouring down all around. It's cool.
Yeah.
It kind of sucks that it's really hard to attack Ganon, though. I was like, okay, hurry up and shoot, like multiple times. I was like, Tetra, shoots the arrow.
I just kept smacking him in the face with the boomerang.
Oh, it's a good idea. Why didn't I think of that?
I'm like, stop.
He's like walking. He walks really slowly. I was like, okay, he's walking now. I'm gonna like line up now with Tetra's arrow. But then she like takes forever. But then you can hear her. She makes like a call before she shoots. It was fun. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed not being completely alone. I feel like I mean, like, yeah, Zelda's there in Ocarina of Time, but she throws your sword to you like halfway through or something. But she doesn't really. I don't know.
Yeah, she's not like in the arena with you. Yeah.
No. She's like on the edge of the arena being like, hey, Link, you're doing a good job, Link. And you're like almost dead. At least I was. I definitely didn't struggle as much in this game as I did with Ocarina of Time. I died a lot playing Ocarina of Time. We died like one time playing this game.
Yeah. Oh no, I died a little more, but I did hero mode, so there were no hearts, and it's really because you don't get a bottle in a fairy until after basically the first dungeon, or I mean, I guess you could
a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was hard, but then after that,
if you only have 3 hearts after the first dungeon, it's going to be a lot harder.
Yeah.
But did you get to wear your jams?
Yes.
That's the most important part.
Yeah.
You want to talk about characters? Like the most important character introduced in this game, Beetle, the greatest character in the series.
There's we were talking about like when there started to be like some voice acting in the series. There's actually a lot of talking in this game. It's not like full voice acting or anywhere near it, but like Beetle says a lot of things. It's like, thank you.
Thank you. Actually, we joke about that all the time to this day.
Yeah.
Every time.
And I think this might be the only Link who talks like audibly.
He makes noises. What other than like the screaming, fighting? What other noises?
Well, he says "come on" when he's like,
when
you're with like Medley and Makar, or the little statue dudes.
Yeah.
He says like actual discernible words in this game.
You like his like. Slipping.
He's got some good sounds. Another good one is when you do the hurricane spin.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
And it's just like whipping you all around the room.
Yeah, it's like he can't really control it.
Yeah.
His eyes are also like bugging out. They're like really huge.
Yeah, and then he's dizzy after the end. It's really fun.
Yeah.
I'd forgotten it did that. I was like, oh yeah, I can go learn that special move from Orca. And then I tried it out. And I was just like laughing.
Yeah.
I hadn't learned it before. Like the last time I played this game, I had never learned it. So I was like, oh, I'm so excited. And then I did it and I was like, oh my God, this is like impossible to control.
Yeah.
It's good if you're in a room full of stuff.
But you need a lot of time to charge it. So if you're in a room full of things that move fast, it's like kind of hard to use because as soon as they attack you, you're like knocked out of the charging stance. You know what I'm talking about. Like when you can't, your hold is canceled. So it's a little bit hard, but it was fun. Yeah. It's funny to watch him spin around like crazy.
So yeah, we have Beetle, the most important character.
A traveling salesman who at least makes a appearance again later in Breath of the Wild.
Skyward Sword.
I actually don't.
He's in Skyward Sword.
And Skyward Sword? Okay, because I don't remember. Because I didn't play enough of Skyward Sword to see him.
Yeah, he's peddling his little sky ship thing around the main island.
Exciting. He's an important character, obviously.
And then he gets mad and dumps you out of the ship if you don't buy anything.
Yeah.
There's in this game you can get if you get like a silver membership or whatever, you get like a little coupon thing. Did you ever use it? It's like
I didn't this game, but it's like the complimentary card or whatever. And he just says like, you're great.
So great. Yeah. He gives you a compliment. It's really funny. I didn't realize that would happen, and I laughed and laughed.
That's good.
I love Beetle. Yeah, Beetle says thank you. He says oi. A lot of people say oi.
Yeah.
And like the King of Fred's lion says hey. On the hey. Yeah, that's what he says.
Yeah.
And then Tetra talks to you as well. I can't remember what she says though. On the
hers is like a little like hey kind of thing. Like it's sort of like hey, but more sassy.
Yeah, she's basically epitomizes sassiness. So or like it's the embodiment of sass. Yeah. And there's not like full voice acting like Breath of the Wild.
Nah.
Yeah.
Which I think is fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's just a lot more words than I remembered. I was like, oh, look at all these people talking.
Like they make noises in like Ocarina of Time and stuff, but there's way more than there were in Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask.
Yeah.
And you have Link's classic screaming every time he swings his sword.
So yeah, other than Beetle, we have our our classic trio. They're sort of interesting variations on them in this game. I think some of my favorite versions of them. We got Link, but he's explicitly not of the like hero's bloodline. He's not descended from the hero.
Tetra and Link don't know each other before the beginning of the game.
Yeah, so he kind of has to prove himself a hero and everything. Although I think there's some like retroactive stuff that suggests he might be a descendant of the Minish Cap Link. But I haven't played enough Minish Cap to confirm that at this moment. But
well, we'll play that next, so we'll find out.
Yep. And there's Zelda, who has no idea she's Zelda and is a little pirate girl. Who's great. I love Tetra a lot.
Yeah.
I love Tetra also. She doesn't seem to know it all, but then like at some point she kind of like implies that she knows more then, like, I don't know how to describe it. I feel like she knows that there's something different about her, but, like, doesn't know that she's Zelda, if that makes sense.
I think she knows, like, more about this, like, the legend than most people do, but I don't think she, like, really made the connection of why she knows more about it.
That could be.
Yeah.
Because, like, she, like, reacts to the Master Sword, and then, like, she has, like, some, like, things in her room that are, like, the Hero of Time, little, like, tapestry kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that she, you know, had the piece of the Triforce that's obviously been passed down through her family and was told to protect it with her life, but not really told why. But yeah, I like the kind of, like, all the little, like, backstory to Tetra with just, like the reason she's the leader of the pirate crew, even though she's very young, is that, like, her mother used to be the leader of the pirate crew, and so the crew is still loyal to her. And you can see a photo or not a photo, a painting, I guess, in the old Hyrule Castle that shows Zelda with her, like, guards, and you can tell they're all the, like, ancestors of the pirates.
One of my favorite details that I only appreciated this time because I played Ocarina of Time is the, like, stained glass in Hyrule Castle in the bottom. I was like, oh my god, it's all the sages. Look at them. Wow, it's Impa. It's been so long since we've seen them.
Yeah.
And that made me happy. And it also plays Zelda's Lullaby in that room.
Yeah, the whole part is really cool. It's like,
Yeah.
it struck me when I first played it and hadn't played Ocarina of Time, and so had, you know, very little
it's
context
cool.
for it, but it's still like whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's still like, whoa. But
Like,
it's
going
like,
into this, like, yeah. But yeah, once you played it, you're like, there's so much,
it's even more like, whoa.
there's so many references in that.
And Hyrule, like, looks different. It looks different than in Ocarina
But it's still
of Time.
similar
It's
to
not like
the,
Yeah.
yeah, it's still similar to, like, the basic landscape of it, where, like,
Yeah.
you come down those hills and everything. But
There's hills, there's water.
it's different enough that it's, like, obviously a lot of time has passed,
Yeah.
even before the flood, so.
So much so that the Hero of Time wasn't there. Because he was in Majora's Mask Land.
Yes.
Or whatever. Or, like, whatever, waking up the windfish or something.
Yeah. He's in the other timeline.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He's in the other timeline.
Yeah. So yeah, what it is timeline-wise is that, like, this is the adult timeline of Ocarina of Time, where Link got sent back to the past to finish living out his childhood, and so there's
Oh,
no
I see.
Link anymore in that adult
There's
timeline.
no Link to
It's
stop.
not that Link, yeah.
Yeah.
Ganon. Yeah. I see.
Speaking of Ganon, he's rather more philosophical and pensive in this game than he usually is.
Yeah.
He's, like, a lot more thoughtful about, like his past and, like, his desires and, like, why he was envious of Hyrule and all that stuff.
Yeah, he gets more characterization and makes him a more sympathetic character, I think.
Yeah.
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 Because in Ocarina of Time, he's just like, he's bad.
Yeah.
He was always bad, and now he's even badder. You know?
the whole thing where he, like, grew up in the desert with the Gerudo people who, it's like a harsh land, and, like,
Yeah.
and then, like, he could look over at Hyrule, which was so prosperous, and envied them.
Yes. And I think it's, like, kind of implied that it's, like, the same Ganon from Ocarina of Time.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like, he's
this
actually physically the same as opposed to Zelda and...
Yeah, this is the Ganondorf who got defeated by Link at the end of Ocarina of Time.
And he's actually... There's a note in, like... I can't remember if it's Zelda Encyclopedia or Hyrule Historia, one of the, like, official books about his concept art, that he's older. He's meant to be more, like, middle-aged looking as opposed to being younger.
Yeah, I really like his design in this game.
It is,
like,
yeah.
really
It was definitely offsetting at first, but it's grown on me. Yeah.
He's just, like,
I like his outfit.
he's just, like, big and intimidating. Like, his, like, I think this is the first time he's shown with swords. Usually he transforms
I
into
think so.
uses
An
magic
animal,
and then
like a
transforms
bull
into the boar form
or
Yeah.
at
pig
the end.
or whatever.
But,
Yeah. I mean, at Ocarina of Time, when he transformed, he then grabbed two swords. But yeah, not in his.
Yeah, I mean, like, as, like, a sword,
Yeah.
like, as a sword fighter,
Yep.
rather
No,
than just
you're
sort of a, like, force to be
Mhm.
faced. Like, which kind of, like, even that and the fact that he doesn't transform at all kind of reflects the more, like, sort of quiet and thoughtful version of Ganon. Like, he's obviously, like, spent a while reflecting and
Gathering his strength again.
gathering his strength and his own, like, own powers rather than just relying on, like, sheer force of, like, evil magic kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
His power is, like, more refined as opposed to just being, like, brute strength or whatever.
Yes.
I don't know. However he got to be the bearer of the Triforce of Power before.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of a more considered power this time. And a more considered wish, perhaps. But we'll never know what it was exactly. He said what he wanted, but whatever.
Yeah. Another thing that makes this Link different is he's got like family.
Yeah.
Besides an uncle who's on screen for half a minute and then is killed. He's got a little sister and a grandma.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does. In like a little town. That's his friends, as opposed to like the Kokiri who are like, "Ew, you're gross, Link." Like in Ocarina of Time. They're all like, "We want
he's not an outsider in his
No.
society here. He's part of that island, and like they all go out to like say goodbye to him when he goes off to save Hyrule.
That was actually sad.
Yeah.
The first scene where they're saying goodbye to him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they all want to help him, and they're all like Orca is like, "Oh, you look so serious. Like, I need to give you stuff," and they all like, yeah, it's not like. In Ocarina of Time, they're like, Link, we'll sell you this equivalent of money. Like, they're really kind of, like, sassy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Except for Saria, obviously.
Yes.
But yeah, like, all the others.
You
are
can
like,
never return.
Yeah. Well, they got all turned into trees, apparently, so
Yeah.
I don't know. I think, like,
The Koroks are much nicer than the Kokiri.
They're all so charming and fun. They're all like, we're doing our dance. You want to come? Oh, just kidding. You got to save our Makar first.
Save our dumbass cellist.
Great Eco Dreamhacker's gone again. We were talking before I guess we could talk about Makar and Medley and like the Rito. But yeah, I guess this is the first. Like the Great Deku Tree was in Ocarina of Time, but like the Kokiri as like little trees. Or Koroks as little trees, rather.
Yeah.
Is like this is their first appearance in
Yeah.
the franchise.
Yeah, it's the first appearance of the Rito and the Koroks, who will become very important for Breath of the Wild fans in the future.
Yes.
Yeah, important rock targets. I mean, what?
Yes.
For the Koroks.
I really like how like this Great Deku Tree is implied to be the grown up sprout that you see after the original Great Deku Tree dies in Ocarina of Time. And the evil forest, whatever it's called, the Forbidden Woods or whatever.
Yeah.
That's implied to be like the old forest that they lived in. Like you can find the old Kokiri huts with their little symbol on them in the woods. And the Koroks say like, yeah, we used to live there a long, long time ago.
That's kind of cool.
That's cool. This game is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's them, all the little trees.
Yes.
Yep.
And then there's the Rito.
Yeah. Which are cool bird people.
Yep.
Bird people.
I've always thought the Rito were cool.
Yeah.
They're apparently descended from the Zora, though it's a little confusing.
When we were playing this game, because I don't know if it's common knowledge, but me and Kayla and Cosm have like a chat so we keep track of what we're doing. And when I got to the part where it was like, Medley, you're my descendant, or whatever, and it was like a Zora, I was like, how is this physically possible? The fish turned into bird? I'm confused.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's Hyrule magic, whatever.
Yeah. I have often heard the theory that the, like obviously it says that like the goddesses told like the chosen people, not biblical at all, to go to the,
Yes.
like highest
Go to
points
the tops
before they flooded
to avoid the
the
flood.
kingdom.
Yeah.
Not biblical at all. Yes.
Yeah. And it's implied that they had some effect on the evolution of like the Koroks and the Rito. And so like the theory I've heard is that they transformed the Zora because they didn't want anyone diving down to see what happened to old Hyrule below the waves.
Right.
Yeah, they wanted the ocean to be fishless except for the fishmen.
Yeah.
But not Zora the manfish.
I love the horrifying fishmen.
Shmeh.
Yeah. Actually really do like them. I completed my whole chart because I liked feeding them and hearing them talk.
Yeah,
I fed all the fishies.
I fed all the fishmen. I didn't complete the chart where it seemed like there were no islands but only towers, like those, things out of the sea. But I got most of them. It's on my chart.
Yeah, there's an island in every square. Some of them are just teeny tiny.
Yeah.
Could have been. I just
And
missed
some of them
it.
are more like a couple of rock spires sticking out rather than like an actual island.
I remembered there being islands. I just really struggled to find some of them, and I was like, "Fuck it, I don't care. These are not important. I have to finish this game. I've seen a lot of fishmen. Like I'm good."
Yeah. I dedicated like a whole day of my playing just to filling out my whole sea chart, just because I was having fun traveling around and talking to fishermen.
Yeah.
Because the music is great,
Yes, it
and
is.
you want to sail around the sea. There's a lot of people that hate sailing. I was reading on Wikipedia.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, you're wrong, but that's
I like it way better than just like walking through Hyrule Field.
Hyrule Field, except
Yeah.
for in Breath of the Wild, where I like walking through everything.
Yeah, because there's actually stuff to do there.
Yeah.
Even just on a practical level, like you can just hit the button for the sail and like let it go. Like you don't have to sit there holding the control stick forward.
And
Maybe
just, like,
hitting
looking
a
at the
roll.
water. I was happy not to be nauseated by any textures in this game, including the water.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know if I should look at that. And then it's like, I can look at that. What a nice relief from Jabba Jabba's belly
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah. But yeah, so we had the Koroks and the Rito, and Makar. I'm never sure how to pronounce his name.
Whatever. Your choice.
But yeah, he turns out to be the descendant of the Sage of Wind, Medley, of the Rito, who was the like attendant to Valoo and was helping you with the dungeon there. Turns out to be the Sage of Earth. So
Nothing confusing about that.
Yeah, right?
yeah, it is a little weird, especially since like Valoo is explicitly a sky spirit, and the Great Deku Tree is called an Earth spirit. But they're like,
I know.
whatever.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Plot holes. I love them both. Actually, Medley's like one of my favorite characters in
Yeah, I like Medley a lot.
all Zelda.
Yeah.
The Rito also have a lot like culturally and visually like similarities to like the Gorons more than
Yeah.
anything. Where like they live in a like volcano and have like a dragon spirit associated with them, and they have Din's Pearl.
Yes, they do. But they have different music. So. So they're different, obviously.
Yeah.
And they're both in in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
Well, and there are Gorons
in Wind Waker.
Oh yeah, that's right. But they're like traveling
traveling
or whatever.
salesman people with like hats on to try and
It's like,
disguise
hey, a
Gorons.
Goron! I was super excited when I saw one.
Yeah, you can like blow
then
their
I
hat off
forgot.
with the Deku
Oh,
leaf.
yeah. I didn't try that. That's funny. I should have. I was just like, this Goron wants to remain anonymous. I guess that's fine.
Yeah.
Just trade with me so that I can get our special magic armor. And then I used it one time and I was like, that is expensive. I'll never use that again.
Oh, yeah.
It's like hundreds of rupees. It's like, is that okay? Yeah, I don't know. I also didn't have that item the last time that I played, but I was really excited about it. And then I kind of figured it probably wouldn't work with the Ganon battle anyway, even though I did equip it just in case I wanted it, but you don't really need it. Some of our favorite enemies are back.
Yes.
Yeah, we got a lot of returning enemies that are redesigned for the Wind Waker style.
Through
I
dimensions.
think some notable ones are the Redeads, which I think are more horrifying in Wind
Oh,
Waker.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
They're kind of like gross in Ocarina of Time,
Yeah.
but like really creepy in Wind Waker. Like they're actually scary zombies in Wind Waker.
Yeah, the way their like eyes are completely black until they spot you and then they start
And
glowing
they
red.
scream.
Yeah.
They scream. Yeah, the scream is worse. And
They also actually like bite you. The Redeads in Ocarina of Time, like they latch onto you, but they don't hurt you, do they? I don't remember.
I mean,
They're pretty easy to shake off.
They do hurt, but like when I was young, I didn't know what they were doing. I was like, are they just like humping Link? What's happening here? It was very unclear. This time I
just
know they're
love
biting
Link.
you. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I
the
think it's also
animation
the-
isn't as good in Ocarina of Time.
yeah. Yeah. I think also part of the creepiness is that there's no like easy like
There's
secret
no-
way to defeat them like there is. Like you can't just
You
like
have
play
to
the
wait for
Song
them
of the
to scream.
Sun or
Yeah.
put on the mask to make them dance or whatever.
I think you can shine light on them if it's there, but it's
Yes.
never there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you have to have light to reflect, so, and that just stuns
Right.
them. Like,
Yeah. But yeah, you basically have to wait for them to scream and then you can attack them,
Yeah.
which is a huge pain because you kind of like can't. As soon as you get close enough to hit them, then they scream.
yeah,
And then once they do
yeah. I
that,
made
you
a
can,
mistake
like,
one
back
time
up
where
and-
I was like, I bet I can jump attack them, and
Nope.
I was not close enough to jump attack them, and then I was too close to get away before they got me, and I was like,
chomp
oh,
you.
my hubris.
Ow, right in the hubris.
Yeah,
But in Ocarina of Time, as soon as you see them, you can start stabbing them, and
Yeah.
they die before they even attack you. But in this one, they have to scream first, which is really
Yeah.
deeply upsetting and stressful.
Yeah.
we got the floor masters who look really cool but are really annoying.
I enjoy
Where
them.
they're like this like puddle of void.
Yeah.
This like neon hand comes out and grabs you.
They have a cool sound effect too,
Yeah.
but they don't drop from the ceiling
No,
like they do in
Yeah.
Ocarina of Time, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, I think the floor masters were like a slightly different shade of fleshy color, and then they like just kind of hang out, as opposed to the wall masters that fall from the ceiling in previous games.
You're right.
These but these are like really visually different.
Yeah.
They have like a long spindly arm instead of being a disembodied hand.
Yeah. We got the whiz robes that look like toucans for some reason this time. But I actually really like that design.
Yeah, it's neat.
At least they don't have an uncanny smile like the Wizrobes in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like this design.
We got the choo-choos that now take on their kind of classic form for the rest of the series. Which is like the brightly colored blob with the googly eyes.
And they're not all electrified like in the handheld Zeldas.
Yeah.
And we got the Peahats return, which are like the spinning flowery dudes. But there's also a really terrifying giant sea version called Sea Hats.
Oh, yeah, those guys!
Yeah, they'll fuck you up. I don't like them. And they have scary
They are
faces.
so big. Like and
They are.
They come like zooming at you with that propeller noise when you're sailing around.
Yeah, I don't like them. But the little ones are cute. They're kind of funny if you like hit them with the boomerang. Or you hit them with the leaf, the Deku leaf, and they just like flop to the ground.
Their little propeller like crumples up and they hop around a little bit on the floor.
Yeah.
As far as new enemies, probably the most notable one is the Bokoblins, who become kind of your standard mooks going forward. While the Moblins are more of a like higher level enemy.
Yeah.
Yeah, they show up in pretty much every major game going forward now.
Mini blins. They don't show up in every
I don't like
game,
them either.
I fucking hate them.
Oh, yeah.
They
always so
terrified
many
me the
of
first
them.
time I played the game as a kid, because the first time I discovered them was going up the path above Outset at night.
Oh, yeah.
And I just heard the little sounds, and I was like, what the fuck is that? And then, like, they started attacking me, and I couldn't really see them well because it was really dark.
They're like cute until they start stabbing you, and then it's really annoying. I was like, oh, these little enemies, they're so cute. And then I was like, ah!
Yeah, they're upsetting. I don't like them.
Yeah, I agree.
As far as the bosses go, we got the Helmarok King, who's the giant monster bird, who has a really cool design.
Oh, yeah.
He does. There's a lot of things with eyes that you can shoot, like Goma.
Yeah, of course.
For example.
We got a version of Goma here who's a little different than usual. It's more of a centipede type thing instead of a spider. There's like little versions of Goma in the temple. There's a lot of like little versions of bosses in this game, which is kind of neat, where it's like implying that there's some like giant ancient version of them.
Like dinosaurs.
Yeah, like even the Helmarok King, you have the little Cargarok bird enemies.
They have the worst sound effect. That, like moaning sound effect.
Yeah.
I like their little alert sound effect though when they're like about to attack you.
They're like,
Their little, like,
that one.
sound.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but you can hear them from a mile away going.
Yeah.
So annoying.
It's good to know they're there, otherwise they knock you off of shit.
Yeah.
We got Godan, which is the head and hands enemy that I was referring to when we did the Oracles episode that one enemy reminded me of. And he's like the final test of your hero-ness.
He has a good background music.
Yeah.
And a good dungeon level. It has the like shiny Tron lines like we were talking about that are in Breath of the Wild. It has some like shiny effect in there. And he also drops arrows out of his nose, which is really important. During the battle.
Yeah. It's funny, and it also makes sense since he's testing you, so he doesn't want to make it like unfair. It's like, here, you can have all the stuff you need to defeat me, you just need to use it right.
Yep.
Well, and a lot of the times the arrows will just like bounce right off if you don't shoot at exactly the right angle. So like you do lose them really quickly, which is a little bit annoying.
Yeah.
And you would definitely be dead if you couldn't. And there's no like
there's no pots to break or enemies that spawn or anything. So Mulgara, mostly noticeable for having a kick-ass theme song.
Yeah.
It's the sandworm thing. The physics of that room are kind of cool in the boss fight. How the
It's pretty
floor
cool.
kind of sinks down where he shows up and stuff.
Yeah, and you can see where
she,
he's
whatever.
gonna get it. I don't know. They.
Yeah, it's like it's got little babies, so I don't know if it's
It does.
it's like if they're actual babies or it's just
It's like
spawning minions,
asexual,
so-
like a worm.
Yeah.
or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, it's obviously like a relative of like the Moldorm enemies in other games, but less annoying.
Except there's a puppet Ganon kind of Moldorm-ish form. And
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
I can't believe we're fucking fighting Moldorm
very
again.
annoying.
I'm so mad. That one was the hardest one. But yeah,
It's really difficult. Yeah, I honestly put it there just to mention the theme song. That's a great theme song.
Yeah.
It's a banger. But yeah, I also like the sand. And you fight them in Breath of the Wild too, because they have those like, you gotta go out in the desert.
Molduga or whatever they're called.
Molduga.
Yeah.
Same.
Mole something
Breath of the
means
Wild
they
is-
bury in the ground.
Breath of the Wild has a lot of influence from this game, which we'll talk about when we talk about Breath of the Wild. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got a very cool version of Phantom Ganon. He's got one of my favorite designs.
Really cool.
Yes.
He also has Tron lines.
Yeah. Also, fun trivia, his sword says Zubora, Gabora, and Hylian, which are the two smiths in Majora's Mask who forged your sword into the fancy sword.
Nice. I didn't know that. That's cool. I
We
can't
got
read
Puppet
Hylian.
Ganon, who is, yeah. Yeah, I didn't read Hylian, I read Zeldapedia.
You'd think after, I mean, there's like actual dialogue in Hylian in this game, so
Yeah.
The King of Red Lions is talking something. You're like, what the fuck are you saying? Why are you talking about me? I'm right here.
We got Puppet Ganon, who's very creepy when he first transforms. And I really liked his first two forms. They're fun to fight, but the snake can fuck off.
It's fucking annoying. That was where I died the
Yeah.
first time that I played this game, and then I was like, I'll do that later, and then never did. So
Yeah. I didn't die, but I was in there for a long time. The best method I found was either hitting in the face with either a bomb or a spin attack, and then hoping you were in the right position to hit the tail before he unstunned again. He's really annoying in that form. But I like the other two forms, like cutting the strings of the first one is really cool.
Yeah.
And then
watching
like
the
using
spiders
the reflective water to
reflection.
find out where you need to be to hit the tail.
Yes.
Yep. And then of course Ganon himself, which we talked about that final bite already some.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
Pretty cool. With working with Tetra, which was great.
Yep.
Because she's like a cool character, but you don't actually. It's like you talk to her for 2 minutes and then you leave her in Hyrule for like half the game.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, she's more involved than I remembered her being. Like I remembered like just kind of like you see her at the beginning and then like they help you into the fortress, quote unquote you into the fortress. And then
they fling you into the fortress.
yeah. And then you see her when you get the bombs, which is a cool moment because it's just that she's like feels kind of bad about like what happened to you and wants to protect your island, obviously thinking you're dead. And then sees you and is like, aha, and lets you steal the bombs and go about your journey. And then comes to help you at the Forsaken Fortress again.
Yeah, she's like the definition of tsundere or whatever.
Yeah.
She's like, I hate you, but also leave me alone, but also I care about you.
But she's got a cute little character arc and like it's believable that she and Link come to, care about each other and want to protect each other.
Besties. Yeah.
Yeah.
They went through a traumatic battle that nobody else was there for, so now they only understand each other, obviously.
Yes.
I ship it. But I also ship like Medley Link, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Whatever. Kamali can fuck off. He's such a little jerk.
Oh yeah.
Although after you help him, he's like more okay.
Yeah, he was just down on himself. He had a traumatic experience. And
He's fine.
then he got better and helped you.
Yeah.
I felt bad though
it was
after
all
you
good.
like take Medley to the little temple and then like you come back and he's like, oh, I found this flower to give Medley. Do you know where she is? He's like,
You're like, "Ugh." No.
Although you do see her and Makar on the pirate ship at the end, which implies that they're not
Yeah, they're fine.
trapped
They
there
didn't
for the
get-
rest of their lives like the other sages. So.
Right, they didn't get trapped in Sacred Realm. They say, like, I'm going to stay here and pray. They don't say, like, goodbye, I'm going to the Sacred Realm.
Yeah.
Like the other sages in Ocarina of Time. Yeah, they seem fine after everything's done. And they're there in the credits. They're not ghosts in the credits or whatever.
Yeah, little colorful spirit orbs floating above. Oh, also, I love how expressive Link is in this game.
Yeah. Just
He has,
all
like,
the
I think he's-
faces and
Yeah, I think he might be the most expressive Link still. Like, I remember Skyward Sword being fairly expressive, but I think Wind Waker Link still has him topped.
yeah.
Yeah, he's more expressive. I feel like in Ocarina of Time and, like, Breath of the Wild, like, he's very, like, reserved.
Yeah.
Like, and he has, like, expressions, like, determined expressions, but it's not really the same. Wind Waker Link has, like, he's, like, fully interactive with all his emotions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's, like, multiple, like, scenes of just his face, like, like, the cutscene where they're going to fling him into the Forsaken Fortress.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's such a great...
It's so good.
that, like,
And his reactions.
it's like expression of horror, which transitions to this, like, determined expression,
Yes.
and then this kind of cringe as he's getting ready for it to happen.
Yeah.
Right. And all his, like, I love his little sidling face. I sent a video really early on when we were playing. I was like, look at him on the wall. He's, like, looking around. His eyebrows are changed. One's going up and down. Like,
Yeah.
he's got really great faces.
And his little dance when he beats a boss.
He's like, yay. And he's, like, jumping up and down.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember that one of the first things I remember about this game before it came out, like reading an article on Nintendo Power or whatever, it was talking about how like Link would like look at things of interest in his environment, which I still think is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does. And he just looks around in general and like moves around more when you're not moving, and like
Yeah.
you know, shuffles his eyes and shuffles his feet.
Yeah. It's like he's really just a normal kid. Like he doesn't have some great destiny or heroic lineage.
Yeah.
Just a kid who wants to save his sister. It's who grew up as a pretty normal kid.
Yeah, as opposed to like
Yeah, like it makes sense that like Ocarina of Time Link and Breath of the Wild Link would be more like stoic and reserved with the way they were raised.
Yeah. Well, and Link in Breath of the Wild Link is like a knight that's always been around and always been, you know, training for that moment.
Yeah.
And like we talked about Ocarina of Time, Link is like, he was like ostracized. And then in Majora's Mask, he's like even more ostracized because nobody knows what happened to him.
Yeah.
He's like seen some shit, but he's actually like 10. So
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, Wind Waker Link is like an actual child.
Actual child who stabbed Ganon in the face.
He grew into the hero by doing the tasks and whatnot.
Anyway, that's what I've got.
I was gonna say, anyway, should we talk about how you play this game or whatever?
All right.
Seamless transition.
Okay.
As usual.
So we're back in 3D.
Yay!
Yeah, it's a great game.
Yes.
So you got all your core stuff as usual, right? You're with the sword. Some of the newer things are parrying.
X and Y?
What?
The GameCube added the 2 extra buttons instead of just A and B, right? Wait, am I crazy? No, you had extra items in
Yeah, the C buttons and
you had C buttons
and 64. Yeah,
they added. Yeah, but then like this one has a C stick, and then X and Y buttons, and the Z button on the back.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the Wii U gives you some like hard coded items to free up some buttons.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty great.
Yeah,
like you got
The
all your
sailing
like
items.
Wind Waker and sailing stuff on your D-pad.
The quality of life in HD, some of those things are just so nice.
Improved substantially, yes.
Yeah, I think the biggest change that they made with the core play with the sword is you can parry now, and it's really satisfying.
Especially the way the music works with the sword.
Yeah,
Don't spoil my
it
section.
makes every hit feel really good.
Except I know that you can parry with a shield in like Breath of the Wild, but are there other like similar games where you can parry? I feel like you can do it in Twilight Princess, but I don't recall. Do you remember?
If you can do it in Wind Waker, you can probably do it in Twilight Princess, but I don't remember.
Yeah,
I think you can. I think some of those like special moves you learn from.
Okay, yeah.
Like the spirit of whatever.
Yeah.
I think one or two of those are parries. Yeah, I'm trying not to spoil Twilight Princess and our Wind Waker.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay.
Yeah, I think you do learn special moves, but yeah. Notable parrying in this game.
Yeah. As for movement, you've got the sidle that we talked about a little bit. And
swinging.
Yeah, swinging. That's right.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I like forgot about how that's like because it's so normal after you do the whole game, and it's like, oh yeah, that was like completely new. Like,
yeah. It's interesting because like for me, I saw that as a replacement to the hook shot. So I was kind of actually disappointed.
You have a hook shot too.
Yeah, I was kind of disappointed when you end up with a hook shot too. It's just like, I mean, I don't know. I feel like
I think they function pretty differently.
They do.
I mean, they could have cut out the hook shot entirely with the little alterations, but I think they do a pretty good job making them different enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you're not wrong.
The grappling hook is really fun though. Yeah.
Yeah. And also, well, like you climb the rope at the end in like Ganon's tower and stuff. Like there's also just ropes that you climb like on top of the one that you throw yourself with the grappling hook.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the grappling hook is used most prominently, but yeah, there's
and
like the swinging in the pirate ship.
Yes.
Yeah, and in the Forsaken Fortress too. Before you get the grappling hook. But yeah, like the motion of climbing and swinging and sidling are all new.
Yeah,
and the parry. I think the Z targeting is enhanced too. I think they did some stuff.
Yeah, I believe that.
Like you don't have to be staring directly at the thing anymore to Z target, which is nice. And I don't know if it was just on the HD version, because I used to definitely hold down the target button when playing on the GameCube, but in the Wii U version at least, you can like press the targeting on and off. So like you can target and let go.
That was an option in Ocarina of Time. I think if you just went into the options settings,
that's how it used to be.
Yeah,
like in the original Ocarina of Time and or Majora's Mask.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember the original because I just kind of do that automatically. That's just my instinct is to hold it down. So I don't remember if I had to or not when I played the original.
Mm-hmm.
I just know that you don't have to hold it down, which was great because I was doing the thing with Orca and I was like, my hand is so tired.
Yeah. That's a good. We talked a little bit last episode about like accessibility in games. Not very much, but we talked a little bit. But that's a big accessibility feature that's becoming more common. Thankfully, is being able to toggle things instead of having to hold them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because your grip, it's very tiring.
Yeah, it's very difficult if you have any kind of like neurological thing with your hands or arthritis or anything like that.
And then, yes, because of all the water, you've got the sail, and you do a lot of sailing. You have items that change their function when you are on the boat, like the bombs and the grappling hook.
I always thought that was really cool.
Yeah,
cool.
it's a very neat...
Like your bombs becoming a cannon and stuff.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Using the cannon is fun.
Let's see. For music, we use the Wind Waker to have various effects. There's only 6 songs, which I forgot, and it feels kind of slim, but I think there aren't very many songs in future games either anyway. I think I'm just used to Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time, which have a good number of songs.
A lot.
You know?
Yeah. Even Majora's Mask pared it down from Ocarina by giving you just one warp song instead of one for each temple.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But the core songs are I don't remember the names, but one to change the wind, one to change
like
the Ballad of Gales.
Gales?
Yeah.
Yeah, I also don't remember the names. I should probably have known that. But Ballad of Gales is the one to change the direction of the wind.
There's one to pass the day from night to day or day to night. One, your warp song, where you have to be on your boat and you get picked up by a hurricane. Perfectly safe. And
it's controlled by a magical toad god. It's fine. You shot in the face with the arrow until he respects you.
He was like, "All right, cool. You're cool, kid."
And then we've got the Song of Command, which lets you control people and statues.
A variety of things. Cosm.
Yes.
The wind song is the Wind's Requiem. Ballad of Gales is the one that is your fast.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I googled it.
Yeah, I thought Ballad of Gales was the tornado one, but I couldn't remember the other one.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah. And then you've got the 2 sage songs to awaken the sages and help you get through the dungeon that you play together.
God's lyric and the Wind aria.
Which are the 2 halves of the main theme of the game, which is cool.
Yes,
I think I
you're all
that
spoiling my sections. How rude. All my things I was gonna say. And like the actual songs you play on the Wind Waker are like kind of like an abstracted version of that song, just like the warps from Ocarina of Time. You know, like the warp for like Bolero Fire is like do 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 or whatever, and then the song goes do 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 do, and then the whole rest of the song, whatever.
Yeah.
So they're, I don't know how to describe it, but they're abstracted versions of the songs, which is cool. And I think those like the 6 when you're conducting in six notes, I think the key is different. I didn't check, but I'm pretty sure that the key is a different key.
The notes definitely sound different if you play the same one and the different.
3 and 4 sound the same to me. Like the command melody, and then the ones that use 3. Command melody and Ballad of Gales is 4.
Yeah, but I know I've occasionally put it in the wrong direction for. Like, I got the 6 instead of the 4 when I was trying to warp, and I was like, that don't sound right.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, the time one's called Song of Passing, as opposed to Song of Time.
It. Yes.
Yeah. I guess I can't call it Song of Time.
Yeah.
That has a connotation from...
Yeah.
Ocarina.
That's like how it's like, since it's a conductor's baton, it's more like you're sort of like commanding the winds or world to do all these things rather than like playing an actual song.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely feel... I think it definitely contributes to the feeling of being... Like, you're called, like, the hero of the winds. You have the power of the winds and stuff. And, like, using a baton instead of, like, an instrument gives you more of this, like, feeling that you're, like, making stuff happen. It's kind of cool.
Yeah. Love, like, little animations when he conducts too.
He like closes his
yeah.
eyes, and then he moves his little hand. So when you can change the time, when you change the tempo or the key signature, so when you change it to 3 or 4 or 6, he like moves his hand to different positions, which is cute. And he like moves his hands when he's playing the song. Yeah. It's charming.
I like how excited Makar gets when you pull out the window. He's like, are you a maestro? Are you going to conduct me?
Yeah. Medley also was really less excited, but she's like, oh, Link, are you going to conduct me or whatever? And then like, yeah.
I feel like there's a significantly less active items that you use. Because you've got the arrows, and the boomerang, they've returned, bombs.
Heavy boots.
You got the iron boots back, yeah. So, really
the power bands are passive, thank God.
Yes. Thank goodness.
Fucking put on power bands every game.
Iron boots are interesting because they don't make you sink in the water. They are used to, like, hold still on the wind and stuff.
Yeah.
There isn't really any part of this game that's underwater because there's no Zoras, so... Except for, like, the Hyrule Castle, but it's, like, in a bubble underwater, so that doesn't really count.
Yeah.
You don't, like, if you swim, you drown.
You don't want to, that you don't want to dive in.
Yeah, actually, I think that's important. Link has, like, a drowning meter in this game.
Yes, yeah.
I think you can kind of swim indefinitely in Ocarina of Time Majora's Mask, right? If you had
on the surface, you can.
On the surface.
Yeah,
so in this game...
the Zora tunic.
Yeah, then you can swim underwater. But yeah, in this game, you can't swim indefinitely. Which is kind of frustrating when you're trying to get in the fucking boat.
Yes.
If you're me. Like, I'm going to drown, let me in the boat.
The worst thing is if you're sailing at high speed and you hit one of those bomb barrels, because your boat keeps, your boat's momentum keeps going. So it goes,
no, physics,
and you're stuck in the water. You're like, come back.
Save me, boat. Dangerous accidents in the seas.
And that happened one time when I was traveling a really long way, and I just set my direction and hit A to sail, and then I like looked at my phone for a second, and then I heard this explosion. I'm like, whoa, what happened?
Oh no. There's a 360 camera in this game because it was on the GameCube.
Yeah.
Like the Nintendo 64 had a 360 camera, but it like locks at certain angles, right?
And
but the GameCube, I always loved the GameCube because it had free camera. That was like my favorite aspect of it.
Yeah.
So this game has one, it's one of the earlier games with like a full 360 camera, which is pretty cool.
Actually, I took a note of it because it's going to come important later on.
Ooh.
But let me pull it up. The game can register over 50,000 angles.
What? Wow. Yeah, because it can go up and down too.
Yeah, up and down. Yeah. So there's a lot of angles that you can get.
Yeah. So many angles.
Yeah.
There was contextual controls again. Just like it wasn't like an advancement, but there were more contextual controls, like the sidle when you walk up to a wall.
Yeah.
So there were even more context. And there's like climb or push the blocks and stuff. Like yeah. You didn't talk about the single tuner yet, the most important.
Well, yeah, I was going to talk about the new items. Okay. The new items are, we talked about the sail and the grappling hook. There's the telescope that you get.
Right.
And then the leaf. So those are the core, like, items that you use more regularly. But you've got the magic armor you get, which, depending, either drains your magic or drains your rubies, depending on which version of the game you have. And then you just don't take damage. You got a bunch of bags for mail and for spoils, which comes with the different types of baits. The bait and the pear. The pear lets you control a bird.
You have to for one of the Triforce pieces in HD, though. Actually, I think maybe in both. So
I think so. Yes.
Yeah.
I love the freaky sitar music that plays when you like take control of something.
Oh yeah.
And Link's doing this weird pose.
Yeah, Link does this like like he's like hypnotizing you pose.
Yeah.
Good point.
So I want the spoils bag in real life. It's really cool looking.
Yeah, it is very cool.
I sent you Etsy links. They weren't very good though. This is a call to the wind on our podcast. A scream to the void. I want a spoils bag.
Yes.
In what was that game? Oh, in Oracle. In the Oracle's games, they had the like seed bag. But basically, the bags are a way of extending your inventory and like categorizing your inventory so that you can have more crap without changing inventory screens.
Yeah, because there's a bunch of like monster-specific drops of like loot.
Yeah, you don't have to go through
the joy pendants and the knight's crests and the chew jellies and the golden feathers.
Yeah, and then you don't have to scroll through a bunch of screens like Breath of the Wild. You can click
Mhm.
into. It's like a different interface for adding more to the item screen, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if that's. I guess I don't know. I would say like we didn't talk about it in Oracles, but that's like kind of an enhancement to have like sub item screens.
They've done that with
basically.
like the music, right? You could pick the
True.
what was it in Link's Awakening? Was
Yeah,
it
you
just
could pick the
flute?
song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mambo's Mambo.
So it,
Yeah, Mambo's Mambo. It was a flute, wasn't it? I forget. We should know, but I'm pretty sure it was.
Yeah,
a
I think
flute.
it was an ocarina type thing. Yeah, I don't know if they called it an ocarina, but I think
It was a flute, but it was shaped like the sprite was like an ocarina. I think.
yeah.
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 So yeah, I mean, but they definitely took advantage of it a lot more here.
Yeah, there's like multiple sub bags within your pockets or
Mhm.
whatever.
Yeah. I think the mailbag was underused. There should have been like a mail delivery.
Yeah, yeah. I
Should
really
have been.
was expecting it to be a lot more of a thing. I guess
Is there not
But
even a side quest?
there's
Is there,
a
Are there
couple.
like Windfall Island side quests where you get a letter?
There's
something?
one where you deliver letter. It holds the cabana deed, right?
Yeah.
I think
And then
does.
it holds you can have 3 flowers from the little Eskimo salesman guy.
But that's the other. Oh, I guess that is a delivery bag. Yeah.
yeah.
The Windfall Island shop guy that you have to like do stuff for him, and he gives you the sale. You buy the sale from him and stuff. He's so sketchy. He's like, "You want that item?"
Yeah.
You're like, "Well, you're the only possible person selling stuff on this island, so yes, I guess I do."
Yes.
But by the power of deduction in video game logic, yes, I want that item. Yeah, I do think they were underused. I think you could use more. They probably like planned to do more, and they were like, "We can't have all these letter quests taking up space on this tiny disc. We got to cut back."
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, I didn't talk about the Picto box and the deluxe Picto box. Just nice, neat little way for you to take pictures.
Selfies.
Yes, selfies.
Yeah.
And then the Tingle Tuner, which makes this the first multiplayer Zelda game, sort of.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not a
there's
great
connectivity.
multiplayer experience, but
Yeah.
Have you ever
it's
used it? Because I never used it.
yeah, I did.
I messed with it a bit as a kid.
Yeah.
I have a Game Boy
didn't-
Advance, but I don't have a connection.
Didn't really do much
cable.
with it.
Yeah. You really couldn't do a whole lot, and it wasn't really that fun for the person who was there. Because, like, I think everything costs rubies, which, you come to a lot by the end of the game, but if you're playing with friends and all that, you're probably trying this out early when you don't have the rubies to kill.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be selective and all that. It was neat.
Another one of Nintendo's neat idea, but not great execution kind of things.
Yeah. There were other games that were like even worse, where it's like, and everyone has to connect a Game Boy Advance to the GameCube or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but yeah, it was like a peripheral with a screen, which evolved to other consoles, like we talked about earlier. Oh, there's hammers in the other game, but in other games, but this one has like a specific skull design, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. The hammer looks very cool. And like the gravitas with you like swinging it, really like getting ready and then hitting, it's very satisfying.
I remember.
Yeah, it's a good animation on Link for the hammer.
Yeah, I remember complaining about this when we were talking about Ocarina of Time, to switch to another topic, but the boomerang, you could only target like one thing at a time or something.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Wind Waker, you can target 5 things at a time, which is pretty great.
That was something I forgot to mention, is that there's an animation, an icon. There's a word for it. Not a cursor, is it? But when you're
like a reticle.
Yes, reticle, for when you're
Oh, it's a target. It's not really a reticle, because reticle would be there all the time. But yeah,
I guess
when you select there's a selected like target thing on it.
Yeah.
When you select stuff.
Yeah, but like for the
Well, it starts with the little dot, and then like when you're on a valid target, it changes to that little
The arrow still
yellow
doesn't have one. It's fucking
splash thing, and it makes a little noise.
Yeah, the grappling hook has the little dot, which I would classify as a reticle.
Yeah. But then it changes to that star
Shiny
shape.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how you describe it. It has a little star.
Yeah. It's definitely a very nice improvement to sort of let you know, hey, you're close enough. Because I think before in Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, there was like a reticle for the you'd see like a little laser coming out of your hook shot showing you where you were, and if you were hit something, it would have a dot showing that you're close enough to hit that thing. But still, it was very subtle and not as
And the bow didn't
unsubtle.
have one. Yeah,
The bow
and
did not have one. Yeah.
The boomerang had one. You could target like one thing, I think.
No, you could target.
Or I think if you Z target in
talking about
in Ocarina of Time.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, in
Yeah,
Ocarina
you
of
could-
Time, I think you could target one. thing.
It would only
Or
if
maybe
you
nothing.
targeted. You could target
Right.
Z target
Yeah, you
or
have to
nothing.
Z-target.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
this one you have. Is it 5 or 6 that
think
you could do
5.
with the boomerang?
It's
I think
around
5
5.
too.
It's either 5 or 6. I'm pretty sure it's 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Counting all
It's a
those
really
tentacles.
satisfying sequence of songs too, and you like slide it
yeah.
across a bunch of things you can target, and they all light up.
Yeah, doodly-doo. Yeah, it has like
Mhm.
the notes,
Like the notes go up as you do it. Yeah.
There's good sound effects in this game.
Mm-hmm. If you hover over something that you can target, it will target. Whereas I think starting in Twilight Princess, you have to press a button to target that thing. A couple times where what those mini imp guys, what were they called? There's a bunch of them.
Blins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, you can kind of have fun by targeting like side to side and just watch that boomerang go around. But if you accidentally hit, hovered over 4 of them real fast as they moved around, you didn't have as much control over it. But small gripe, nothing too big.
Yeah, and there were like 1 or 2 puzzles where you had to like hit things in a certain order, so you had to like be very careful with hovering your target around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I do remember in Twilight Princess, you can be like, okay, hit this one and this one and this
Yeah.
one with a manual button press.
Oh, interesting.
It was kind of nice to be speedy though, to just like whip it across.
That is true, yeah.
And then let it go, like when you're fighting like the
The thing with all the
Tentacles.
tentacles.
plant and the big octos at sea.
Yeah. Yeah, when you're sailing around and you just like hit the eye, target all the eyes. It's super easy.
So another interesting thing is you get the Master Sword, but then you have to upgrade it. You have to have them restore the power to it, which in most other games, your sword like strength comes from just replacing the sword or that sort of thing. So
Acquiring the sword.
Yeah, or upgrading to a new sword, basically. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Whereas this time you actually have to power up the Master Sword to its full power, which is a neat little aspect to it.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, and it actually visibly glows when it's fully powered.
It does. It looks pretty rad.
Next items are the Triforce shards.
Yeah.
Yay. I mean, there's 8 of them.
It's very similar to the
Kind of going back to
original
Zelda
games.
1 in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there were 8
Collect all the
dungeons in
pieces.
Zelda 1, and you're collecting all the pieces to form the single Triforce piece, basically.
Yeah.
It's retconned that there's 3, but... or whatever. Maybe it's not retconned.
I think there were 2 in the
It's,
original
it's
game,
confusing.
and then they introduced a 3rd one in like Link to the Past or whatever. Yeah, it had the Triforce of Power, and Zelda broke apart the Triforce of Wisdom or something. I don't remember, but there were only 2 in the first game.
And then in the second one, it's like, oh yeah, also the other one.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you have to collect all the pieces, just like in some of the older Zelda games. I think even in like the other handheld ones that we played, or like Link to the Past or whatever, which wasn't handheld originally, something like that. But, yeah.
Treasure charts, you've got a good number of those.
Yes.
Well, charts in general, but yeah, treasure charts, Triforce charts, all that.
So many maps.
Yeah.
Maps.
Yeah. I like it as like a, like pirate treasure following a treasure map kind of thing to go with the whole ocean
Yeah.
concept.
I like when you talk to the people on the sub and they're like, you're obviously out here hunting treasure, right, my guy? Yeah, it's like really funny.
Yeah.
I guess. I was trying to save my sister, but whatever.
Yeah. Use your grappling hook to dredge up treasure.
Yeah, it's cool. And it like changes form, like Cosm said, when it's on your
Yeah.
phone.
Another use of the grappling hook is to gather the spoils from enemies,
Oh yeah, you can
which is
launch
very
it at
interesting.
them.
Yeah. You can use your grappling hook and you will steal an item from enemies, usually a spoil if they have one, or rubies or magic from other enemies that don't have a chance of dropping a spoil. And, part of a collection quests, or you can use the jellies from the chews to make potions, that sort of thing. And then another kind of wild mechanic is enemies drop their weapons that you can now pick up and use.
Yeah, you can pick up weapons.
Yeah.
Not well, but you can.
Yeah. But it's a neat
Most
little...
of them are like 5 times Link's height, so
It's pretty funny.
you can use them to knock down like big, like wooden obstacles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can throw them, or you can just use them because
I like picking up Phantom Ganon's sword because it's huge.
Yeah.
Well, the most important time you can use it is actually right at the beginning when you don't have your sword. You can pick up the sticks from the box and like hit or from the pots and then hit the spotlight operators.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you don't
Or
wanna
hold up
sneak.
your shield and make them drop their stick and then pick up their stick.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's about it for the items and the gameplay.
Does that mean a speedrun time?
It sure is.
Wait, I want to say something about the HD version.
Okay.
We were talking a bit about like the Wii U and its all its weirdness.
Yes.
This is one of the simplest, but I think best uses of the gamepad. Just having your C chart
Yes.
open all the time,
Yeah.
Yes.
and like being able to switch items on the fly.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And like when you use the Wind Waker, it brings up all your songs, so you don't have to
Yup.
memorize the like all the notes and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about the treasure charts. It's especially useful like when you're trying to line yourself up to
Yeah, for a treasure chart.
Yeah.
the treasure to where the treasure is, because you can like watch where your little icon is on the screen next to the X, and without having to go back and forth between the map screen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, you're 100% right.
Like I tried for a little while to play it like just on the gamepad while I was like watching something on TV, and then I was like, how do I even play this game without having my C chart open all the time? It's like I know I did, but man.
Yeah. The HD one definitely is a lot easier. We talked
Yeah.
about sailing, but like the HD version out of the Swift Sail, which made sailing faster.
Mm-hmm.
And also with the Swift Sail, you don't have to change the direction of the wind, so it's like easier. Because
Oh,
it's
yeah.
Mhm.
Such a nice feature.
So good.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, these usage of the map screen.
Yeah.
And the Triforce quest, which was notoriously disliked,
Tedious.
was pared
Shortened.
down
Yeah.
a whole
Yeah.
lot.
I think it's still long enough though.
Mhm. I think it's a good length.
Yeah.
Now at this point, it's like I never minded it
Yeah.
playing the original, but I could also see where people are coming from in disliking it. But like now, I kind of like that part. You like, travel to some weird islands and solve some weird little puzzles.
Yeah.
and go on the ghost ship and
Yeah. Yeah.
go to Tingle's weird slave island.
So many questions and no answers about Tingle always. Yeah, and you gotta pay him to read your charts. I like that they brought Tingle back though. It's like, okay, like this is all about sailing and like you need maps to sail, and Tingle like knows maps, so like it all
Yeah,
totally
it's-
makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that he's like consistently a map maker in
Yep.
Mhm.
all of his appearances.
And then he gives you a map that tells you where the fairies are because he's obsessed with fairies, which is hilarious.
Mhm.
It's all everything's been leading up to this point. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yes, Tingle's finest hour.
I
Question mark.
definitely question mark. I was definitely like, what the fuck is with this Tingle guy when I was a child or whatever. When I was like the first time I played this game because I never played Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask. Majora's Mask,
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah.
Mhm.
And now I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
it's
I remember
Tingle.
like when I found out he had appeared in other games before, I was like, oh, it'll probably make more sense if I play those other games. But no, he doesn't make any more sense.
I mean, he doesn't make any more sense. It's just that he was already
Well-
established as being a
Yeah.
map guy who's like obsessed with fairies.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't make any more sense. You're right. What am I saying? I've just been conditioned. Yeah, you're right. The HD remake is really good. Like the visuals and the sound and whatever. But yeah, the controls, the changes, the quality of life changes that they made, I think were like the right ones. And they didn't change anything that like made the game good. Like the graphic, like they increased the resolution of the graphics and stuff, but like they didn't change the graphics.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think some people complained about the 3D remakes of Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask because they felt like the like color choices and stuff were like didn't adhere to like the original design, which I didn't really have a problem with. But
Mhm.
yeah, some I saw some
Yeah.
comments about that, but I didn't feel like that.
Yeah,
with
it's
the
like I've
HD
seen some people make some jokes about the bloom in the HD
remake.
Wind
Yeah.
Waker remake, but nobody's really like going like, oh, it looks awful. Why did
I'm
they do
offended.
that?
Yeah.
By shininess, yeah.
Mhm.
But no, it's cool. So now speedruns.
Yeah, let's do
Okay.
it.
Let's
All
do
right.
it.
Um,
I saw your document list that has any of the notes about it, and I'm so confused and excited to hear what you have to say.
all right. So first, I'll just go ahead and talk about some of the records. So because it's two different games with two different sets of like strategies and things that work and don't work, I'm gonna start with the original just to beat the game any percent. Aloha Kirby at 52 minutes and 19 seconds. And that was 2 weeks ago. Holy shit.
Oh, a new record.
Yeah.
So early October 2022.
The record before that was 2 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So for the original 100%, it's by Mini 352. 3 months ago also, so another recent record is 6 hours and 13 minutes and 26 seconds. So I watched the any percent of the original, and then I also watched 100% of the HD remake, and the record there is 4 hours, 49 minutes, and 2 seconds.
Oh, so it's like an hour faster.
An hour and a half faster, yeah.
Interesting.
And then any percent, did I mention who that was? Oh, Mr. Alberto has both of them. Mr. Alberto 23. The any percent is 45 minutes and 16 seconds. 7 months ago and 10 months ago. So this game is, I guess, advancing pretty...
Somebody found some new bugs recently.
Well, so that is actually one of the things that I find most fascinating. Like one of the things that got me into speedrunning, my interest in it was this game. So in the Wind Waker, the original, one of the biggest barriers to speedrunning was the barrier outside of Hyrule Castle to get to Ganon's castle, because they have two barriers. One is a physical barrier and another one is a push barrier. So if you go too far, it pushes you back. And so you have to get through both of those. There isn't really any good way to build up speed on land. We'll get into that. In the water, you can go really fast. On land, you cannot. And so actually, it wasn't until 2 years ago, almost 20 years after the game came out, that they finally found a way to glitch through that barrier. Yeah. And the Google Doc that I have up there, that's the process to do it.
Wow, that's a lot of steps.
Yeah, it's 20 minutes. So if you mess it up, you've got to try again, basically go back 20 minutes and try again. So most people will just reset and do a new run. It is crazy. It's partially luck-based. It is glitchy, so it might just crash the game. So it's difficult. But yeah, for the longest time, the runners just could not figure out a way to break the game enough to get past that. Usually barriers are, a thin wall that you just can't get through, right. Or, just... There's a lot of ways to get through a lot of walls, but for some reason, the programmers made that barrier a nightmare to get through for speedrunners. And I don't remember who or what or when I was watching. It must have been a Wind Waker speedrun at some point, and someone was talking about it and how it just sounded really cool. And it was one of the things that made me very invested in speedrunning. So let's start talking about it.
I like the step that's just die.
Yeah, I know. I want Cosmo to talk about it. I like the one that's like birds aren't real, and I don't want to know.
So part of that is also not necessary. Some of that is just the effects of the setup. I'm actually going to explain the 100% speed run because honestly, it's faster to talk about. Okay. So I mentioned that there's no real fast way to move on land, but that's only in the original. In the HD version, if you go into first-person mode with any of the weapons that you can walk around in while aiming, so the telescope and the camera, you zoom instead, so you can't walk around. So you need to get one of the other first-person weapons. Like a bow, or usually the grappling hook's the first one. Sorry, I skipped a very important detail. In both games, the developers put a cap on how fast you can be moving forwards. Okay. A lot of times, just when you're programming, you don't think about it. You don't need to put a backwards speed, how fast you can go backwards, because you usually can't go backwards that fast. The way you can build up speed is if every frame you're going backwards faster than you were before, you can start building up a lot of speed. So in the water, you do this by realistically, you're going to have to pause to help your timing to make sure, because you can't do it 30 times per second. But if you go up, down, up, down, up, down 30 times per second, you keep going backwards. And because I think you're turning around, for some reason, the system gives you an increase of speed in the opposite direction. And so if you do it every frame, it keeps increasing your speed. And because there's no limit, you end up going really, really fast. And then one of the nice things is in the water, if you hold Z target, the camera will automatically try and face forward, but Link moves past that camera, so it then like turns around, and so it does that glitch for you, and so you're constantly moving backwards faster and faster and faster. So once you build enough speed doing that, it's smooth sailing to just keep going, and so you can go from one side of the map to the other using this method. It takes a long time to get it started without that additional speed boost that I mentioned from land. So you can do it in certain places where you're still in the water, but you refill your air, because otherwise you're going to drown. So to leave Outset Island at the very beginning, you jump in the water and you hold up, pause, hold down, pause, hold up, pause, hold down, pause. And you do that for about 3 minutes. And you build enough speed that you then make yourself go just enough in the water that you're still swimming, but you refill your air and you just go. And you make your way to Dragon Roost because you need to go get the grappling hook. And from there, you now can, I don't know, wasn't quite clear, but you hold up, and then for one frame, you hold down at a very specific angle. And for some reason, the game does that for you, where you start building a massive amount of speed. And then if you use that speed to go into the water, you just keep going faster and faster, and you can swim to any island you need. If you're facing a wall, you keep building that speed. The acceleration is still there. You're just not actually moving because you're hitting a wall. And then if you strike your sword, it makes you keep that same speed but go forward. So you will teleport basically in one frame across the screen, depending on how fast you were, and so you can jump through large gaps that way. So a lot of the 100% speedrun is just kind of using that to get through gaps and go places you're not supposed to go, things like that. That was one of the biggest glitches that sort of you just see throughout the entire run. A lot of it's movement, just your path. I'm going to get this item first and this item because it's on the way. Nothing really too game-breaking until you get to Hyrule Castle. Actually, there's a couple others. My bad. There's the... well, okay. So one of the things is you don't pick up a sword or a shield, but it's 100%. So you need to get them at some point. You get the Master Sword. That's your first sword. Then you fight Ganon. You confront Ganon in that cutscene where Tetra comes and helps you and you get swooped away. The game plays a cutscene using in-game models, which Link has a sword and a shield. So you get there and all of a sudden Link's holding a shield and the game forgets to take it away because you didn't actually get it because you're supposed to have it.
That's funny.
So then you do that and you go down to Hyrule. And you can also use that method I talked about to gain backward speed with the grappling hook, whatever item you want. So I mentioned there's 50,000 angles that the game can register. There are 11 angles in which you can build up enough speed and go through that barrier. So it's very particular. But if you do it, you can go through that barrier, make your way to Ganon's castle. You pick up the light arrows. And the game's like, oh, you have all the arrows now. So it'll give you fire and ice arrows. You go to a cutscene to fight Ganon, and now you have the upgraded Master Sword. So you don't have to do the dungeon to get the Master Swords. But again, at 100%, you need to do it anyway. So now you have an upgraded Master Sword, which does more damage. You go back to the Earth Temple and go with Medley, beat the dungeon. Medley prays to the sword, and the sword actually gets downgraded.
It's like, way to go, Medley.
Yeah, really.
And then the game has a thing that says, if for some reason it's downgraded, it'll double check, and it'll upgrade the sword. So if you save and quit, or if you die, the sword will go back to being upgraded, which is bad. Because in order to beat the Wind Temple, if you have the fully upgraded sword, Makar is always going to be at the boss room praying.
Oh, so you can't actually do...
Which means you can't do it. So you have to have Medley downgrade it to be able to go and meet with Makar and do that entire dungeon. So what they typically do is they have to be careful not to save and quit between that one dungeon and until Makar gets captured. Once he gets captured, you can save and quit, and your sword gets back upgraded. You don't have to save him. He's now at the boss temple playing his music, which is kind of fun because it screws up the music, and he's there playing it while you're fighting Moldoga or
That's funny. In the room,
yeah, in the room. So, and just a few other things. Forsaken Fortress. You go there the first time. You don't have the sword, so the pirate ship is there that you were flung off of. If you go back to it by building enough speed and making your way onto the boat, you can go into the boat. And now it's like, okay, well, you already have the...
Oh, to get the bombs?
To get the bombs. You can go get the bombs, and then you come out, and it spawns you...
the sword, and you've already left. You've been flung off the boat, so the next time you're in the boat is to get the bombs. Yeah.
Yes. And so when you leave, the game's like, okay, well, the boat's at Windfall, but it's not there. So the loading zone is there. So you come out at Windfall, but the boat's not there, so you drop into the water, and in Windfall there's a very easy setup to build up enough backward speed to swim to wherever you need to go. Also, because you don't get the sail and you don't enter the King of the Red Lions, a lot of times when you save and quit, that's where you're going to end up. And so you'll go do something, save, quit, go back to Windfall. So it's neat, it's cool, it was fun, it was long, it's 6.5 hours. I think towards the end, especially when just gathering a lot of the items, a lot of that's just sort of sailing around. It's definitely very interesting. A lot of like just movement optimizations and things like that. But I think there isn't a whole lot going on. Like I felt after maybe 2-3 hours, I'd seen pretty much most of what I was going to see. Mm-hmm. But it's still fun. Anytime the game's done quick, people do anything, it's great. So I recommend that anyway. Now on to the any percent. This was done, I watched both of them were done by a runner named Linkus. He was great, very informative, loved it. But he played the any percent on the original. So the startup was very similar, although, so you know how I said that to build up speed, you have to swim by going back and forth really fast. To do that in the GameCube version, and I don't know if this was a one that they I watched the next year, and they mentioned that this was a technique developed that was found that I guess within the past year. So I don't know if you can do this in the HD version, but if you plug in the controller while holding the stick in a very special direction, you change the dead zone. So now when you're not pressing the stick, the game reads a direction.
I used to do that accidentally all the time to my N64 controllers.
Oh, yeah.
Because I turned the game on when I still had the wire wrapped around it, so it was pushing the stick in one direction.
Mm-hmm. So now instead of flicking the stick 30 times per second, you only have to do it 15. So the startup is pretty similar, but they do that. So that saves a good maybe minute and a half. But when you really want to build up all that speed, it's worth it to pause, buffer, because you just lose so much speed from missing one of your 15 frames per second flick. Mm-hmm. And they still go to Dragon Roost, but they go there for the Wind Waker, because in the original version, instead of using the grappling hook or something like that to build up speed, what you can do is if you climb something and pull out the Wind Waker the same frame you're falling, and put the Wind Waker away 3 frames before you land, next time you pull out the Wind Waker, you'll be able to move, but the camera will be locked onto it. So that basically the game will now start giving you all that backward speed. And so you'll keep turning around every frame and you'll gain that speed and be able to go off. Same end result, different execution. Save and quit, you end back on Windfall, and you have some fun. So you start at Windfall. If you do the same thing that I told you with the Wind Waker, you pull it out. If you then talk to someone and do it again, you'll now have that glitch stored twice for some reason. You climb up a little ledge, you pull the Wind Waker out just right, you go talk to someone, you climb a ledge, you pull the Wind Waker out. You're good to go. So now you super swim all the way to the Forest Haven. Because you have that text box saved, the cutscene to enter the Forest Haven just kind of skips. You can kind of glitch through the land and go underneath Forest Haven. For some reason, if you're in water, but there's water above you, you teleport above it. Basically, I think it's because there is no diving in the game. if for some reason you end up in a place where, like a position where it thinks that you're diving, it's going to bring you up to the top. So you're out of bounds. You're not supposed to be there, but that, just the default is that there's water there. And then at the entrance to Forest Haven, there's a little puddle or a spring or something. So you swim under it and you go up. Then in Forest Haven by the Deku Tree, you want to go somewhere, glitch through the wall, and throw bait into the void so that it just falls forever. Then you kind of clip through the wall. You clip through the just below the ground, so your head's poking out where it should be. And you're going to pull out the grappling hook 70 times.
70 times, specifically.
Yeah, exactly. If you do it 69 or 71 times, the glitch will not work. Basically, you're corrupting the memory. So every time you pull out the grappling hook, the game is going to try and reference the grappling hook's ID in the memory and load it into the RAM. But it's going to fuck up because of some of you throwing the bait into the void corrupted some memory. And so now every time you pull it up, you corrupt the memory more and more. And so basically what happens is the game, it pulls out that item and says, okay, there should be a grappling hook. But then it sees like it can't finish that loading, but it's like, okay, well, the grappling hook is there. We're just not able to finish loading it. So you pull out another grappling hook. And so you add essentially 2 grappling hook values there. And so you pull it up 70 times, you corrupt a certain amount of memory. And because of that, you're taking up the RAM. Certain things aren't going to be able to load in the RAM because this corrupted memory, the game doesn't know what to do with it. And until you reset the system, it just can't fix it. So then you can do a trick, interrupt the Deku Tree so that there is no cutscene. And because the memory is fragmented the way it is, all the choo-choos that are on him are like frozen still. And so if you walk into them just right, you can push them off, clip them through the wall, and they just keep going forward until they stop loading. So you basically do this to all of them except for one. Well, you do it to the last one too. And then you want to time it just right so that way Deku Tree, he's moving his chin in a certain way because you fucked up the cutscene. He still thinks those chews are on him. He's moving in such a way so you can get underneath him and he'll crush you with his chin. If you do this the same time that Chew died, that you just sent off into the void, you'll respawn and the game will realize that you've beaten all the chews. So it tried to play the cutscene, but you voided out. So it skips cutscene. And now you can go grab the leaf. And then you go back to Windfall Island. You're going to do a crazy speedrun vacation. I don't have the exact order, but you basically swim to like Bomb Island, back to Windfall Island, back to Bomb Island, to Triangle Island, to Windfall Island. And so you go through all these islands basically because you're loading a certain number of things, and the game is, because the memory is fragmented, it keeps fucking up.
Right.
And you're using up more and more of your RAM. I talked about in Oracle of Ages RNG manipulation, how like every time something is supposed to roll RNG, you know what the result is going to be. So you're just trying to make sure that RNG is rolled the right number of times to get the result you want. That's basically what this is. You're loading things just right so that all the things that you want are loaded and not loaded. There's some luck in it because like certain effects that are kind of random, like water droplet effects, the wind whoosh effects, lightning, those all will also fragment the memory a little bit each time one of those is trying to load. You may end up corrupting too much memory, or the memory might be corrupted just wrong to crash the game. So this 20-minute setup has a decent failure rate because of it. Okay, you go to Thorn Fairy Island to get a bow upgrade. Because you fragmented the memory, the thorns that are usually there blocking the path are not there.
Oh, that's good.
So you can just walk in. Yeah. Then you die. And then you go back to Windfall Island and you do that double storage where you pull out the Wind Waker, you talk to someone, pull out the Wind Waker again. And basically you go over to one of the islands that has just a chest for you to pick up. And if you are in that mode, you try and open a chest, you'll get kind of stuck in the animation. It just doesn't know what to do. It's trying to play one animation, you're already in another.
Right.
But when you're picking up an item, Link's hitbox changes. It's very small, so that way he can really get into there and he's not accidentally like being pushed by the box, so he can do his animation right. So you're kind of in that animation, but you're able to move out of it. What that does is it changes his hitbox to be very small. So then you want to load Forsaken Fortress 4 times. So you're doing the super swim, you go in until you see the lights flash, you leave, you come back. Again, more fragmenting of the memories. Now, because you tried to open that chest, your hitbox is really, really small. And because of that, a lot of like Link just like walk up things because his hitbox is so tiny. Things that would normally push you off, you can kind of just walk. So he just walks up walls and cliffs and things that are at like a very, very slight angle. And so you skip most of the Forsaken Fortress. You end up trying to, when you would normally save Ariel and all of them, again, the memory's fragmented. So you spawn with the water kind of already like trying to come up. But Tetra and one of the other pirates are there, and Tetra's just underwater because she's too short. And so you're able to go ahead and climb all the way up the tower to where you normally fight the Hemlock?
Yeah, the bird.
But while doing that, you need to make sure you break at least 2 pots, because otherwise you won't have enough RAM and your game will crash. You make it all the way to the top, but again, memory's fragmented. Hemlock doesn't spawn. So you're able to just skip that and walk all the way up and just confront Ganon.
Ganon's wondering where the fuck his bird minion is.
Yeah. During this cutscene, you get your Master Sword and the shield. At this point, you can now go back in and go into Hyrule Castle. And so all this fragmenting was designed so you have about 2.8 kilobytes of RAM left. So you go through the Hyrule Castle. A lot of shit's not spawning. And now is your luck chance. Now, every time you load out of Hyrule Castle into the field, that barrier, just the way that the game tries to load things, there's a chance that barrier will not load. So you kind of just go back and forth, and every time you fragment just a tiny, tiny bit more of your RAM, but because that barrier is literally just a really like large blown up version of a tiny box.
Yes.
It doesn't take very much RAM at all. And so I think the one I watched was like 7 times. You had to just load, come back, and pray that thing was gone. It could be more, it could be less, random. Once that's gone, you're pretty much safe. You don't really need to have that corrupted memory much more. And honestly, if you keep it that way, you're going to crash the game later. So at some point after that, you reset. In the in Ganon's Castle, one of the rooms is guaranteed to drop a bomb pickup. But even though you don't have bombs, you can pick that up and it'll give you a bomb bag with 0. You glitch through the wall to skip all the trials other than the bombs that you got from that one. You fight Phantom Ganon and the light arrow. You get your light arrows. Oh, no, okay, this is where you turn it off. You save and quit after you get the light arrows. And then when you try and load, the GameCube's like, hold up, shit, the memory's fragmented, and it hard resets. So you didn't tell it to, but it's going to reset the console and refresh that RAM. So now you have the light arrows, you go fight Puppet Ganon. And that was kind of cool because instead of, you don't have the boomerang. So for the first phase, you just have to kind of spray and pray. Because he wiggles his tail back and forth.
So and you hit the tail while it's still attached with the light arrows.
Yeah, you can. It's hard. He's not predictable in his movement. Well, it's not guaranteed. There's some erraticness to it, but you know. Right. It was good from what I saw. It was impressive, very cool. You beat Puppet Ganon, you climb up to chandelier. I don't remember what that was up there, but there's like rafters and stuff.
Yeah, it's like a big chandelier thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's little spike ball enemies that will hop onto you. So if
Huh?
Yeah.
They're called morths.
Morths. Okay.
Like a moth, but a morth. That's what you're saying.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because they spawn from
They spawn
the
from
moth
the
thing.
mothula enemies.
Yeah. Oh. So if you walk up to it really slowly, and if you try and stab it when it's really close to you, and you hit it the same frame it jumps onto you, when you roll, he'll come off and he won't be dead, but because you hit it with a sword, he'll drop a heart. Because normally those won't drop a heart unless you hit it with a sword. So if you hit it with an arrow or anything, it won't. So what they do is you don't have the grappling hook either, the hook shot. So you then use the leaf to blow it onto the area where you want the exit. That there's a little platform that you have to hook shot onto, and then you hit it with an arrow, and then you another glitch that I talked about in Ocarina of Time. If you use the bottle, and as you're in that animation, you switch it out with another item, and you pick up something with that bottle, it will replace that bottle with the item you just picked up, or it'll replace that item you replaced with a bottle with that item. So similarly, if you use the Tingle Tuner and pause at the same time, pull out a bomb, you'll just pull out a bomb instead of using the Tingle Tuner. So even though you have 0 bombs because you don't have a bomb bag, you can still equip it and you'll still pull one out. You do that to kill yourself, and you have 1 frame when you die to put an input. So if you jump attack, you're still in the air. You can keep jump attacking, and each time you gain a little bit of height. So I don't remember. I think he said if you do it, it was either 8 or 9 times. If you do it 8 or 9 times per second, you will negate the effects of gravity. So if you're able to jump attack like 15 to 19 times per second, you can gain a lot of height, and you go a little bit forward each time. So you're basically, it's called a zombie hover. So you're dead. You're hovering until you land on that heart. Because you do that before you land, you're not dead. Oh yeah, the reason that you're able to do that is that's the frame where the game kind of checks. Do you have a fairy? Let's pull out the fairy so you recover. And so basically, it's still doing that check. You picked up a heart. It's like, oh, you're not dead. Okay, you're good. And then you go fight Ganon. Because you have only 1 heart, you don't want to take the chance. So you know how enemies have spoils? If you hookshot grappling hook them, you can grab their spoil. If you grapple hook Zelda, you get 3 hearts.
What?
Yeah. They do that to make sure that they have enough health to not get one shot by Ganon, and they just do the fight. So yeah, I mean, it was really fascinating how they figured it out. The fact that it took them this long to figure out exactly how to fragment the memory so that barrier stops loading, like a dedication and a certain sense of psychoticism that I don't want to meet in person.
I remember watching a video before they figured it out that was talking about that barrier being like the last big thing they need to break to fully break the game.
Yeah.
It is really hard to get through that barrier. Like, I'm not surprised that it took this 20 years or whatever to figure out a way around that. That's pretty funny.
And it's funny because they were able to get through that barrier in the HD remake before they were able to break it in the original.
Do you think it's because it uses more RAM, or is the process different?
The process, because remember, you have that method of gaining so much backward speed.
Oh yeah.
So what happens is you turn and at an angle, and the game sees your start location, and you're going this fast. It puts you at your end location, and it says that there's no barriers in the way, so you're there, or like you're not in a barrier or anything.
Right. It's just like it's like your end location is here past the barrier, basically.
Yeah. And so it doesn't look for what's in between your start and end location.
Interesting.
So it's like your end location is here, you're fine, good, nothing happens, you're here. It's fascinating. I'm gonna have to start watching more speedruns because the two were so different between the two versions. I was really not expecting it to be such a different experience.
You mean between like the any percent versus the 100%?
But also the HD and the original. you know, and with Seasons and Ages, those two speedruns were so different. It almost felt the same in how one was a lot more technical in just like your execution, and you know, basically kind of use the same strategies repeatedly, but you're trying to just cut down time, versus you're breaking the game. Like, this game is no longer recognizable. And so, yeah, I don't know. It's fun, interesting, fascinating. I love it.
It is interesting. It's just interesting that, like, there's still, even in, like, 2022, there's still, like, architecture in video games that, like, to break. Like, that, and, like, you can still play things in a way that they're, like, not meant to be. Like, we still haven't, like, even as, like, technology is sort of, like, improved, that doesn't, like, leave out the sort of, like, the way that humans write instructions to computers that are, like, open to manipulation. It's very interesting. I need to, like, read up on the speedrun tactics before we start, like, other games to be like, can I save time? Like...
Oh, yeah. That's actually, I'm very tempted to do that myself, because I don't have a great track record of beating these games. So,
not
you know, having a speedrun, having a speedrun tactic here and there to help me get through some of them. Well, although I think also having a guide, like,
having a guide,
because for a while, because I had ambitions to 100% Wind Waker, and at one point I looked at it kind of is, but I looked and there was an interactive map that had like, you know, you can get these items and like I can mark them off as gotten, and I feel like if I had started that from the beginning and kept track, it would have been a lot easier for me to sort of see what I had, where I needed to go, instead of remembering like, did I get the thing on this island? So I might try that with at least Twilight Princess, to see if there's...
There probably isn't one for Minish Cap. Oh, there might be. I don't know.
I mean, there probably, like, it may just be kind of like, I don't know if you saw the map for Zelda 1, where it had like, there's a heart piece in this quadrant, and then, you know, so it might be something like that.
I know there's one fairly extensive like collection aspect to Minish Cap, so there's probably extensive guides to that at least.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Can't wait. Shall we talk about visuals and musics?
Yes, please do.
And visuals. Yeah. Such a good music. Anyway, let's talk about visuals first, though, because that's what I do in my order of things.
It's a pretty game.
Yeah, starting from the outside, though, the packaging, as per other Zelda releases, came on like a gold disc, not a cartridge. So this was like the GameCube was the first like Nintendo console that moved away from cartridges, although they're back to cartridges now, but whatever, you know, whatever, it's fine. But yeah, basically it used these mini DVD cartridges, or not, I'm sorry, mini DVDs, not cartridges, to store games.
So weak.
The discs, you know, they could hold more data than a cartridge could. And they were still proprietary, so they still, because Nintendo's very like anti-piracy, and that was why they were always like cartridges. But yeah, so the specific mini DVD format, I guess, was like, I don't know, maybe it made piracy easier, but the whole point was to reduce piracy. It also, we talked about this, I think, a long time ago, like our first exposures to this game, but it was part of that like special, there was a preview of this game that was released, that was packaged with the GameCube remasters of Ocarina of Time Majora's Mask.
Yes.
And whatever.
Yeah, it was on the disc that I played Ocarina on.
Yes. Yes.
It's like, ooh, Wind Waker.
Yeah, there's a Wind Waker not sample, what is it called? You know,
demo?
Like demo. Yeah, there's a demo. Yeah. And I played the demo.
It's like 20 minutes of Wind Waker or something.
Yeah, it was fun. And I was like, I must have this game, and then got it later. So I guess it worked. Technologically speaking, in terms of the visuals, it was very interesting. This was released in 2001, so this was like 5 years. The GameCube was released in 2001, which was 5 years after the first N64 released. And basically, like, graphics-wise, it's similar to the way the N64 worked, but there was better processing, which enabled more polygons and therefore enabled more detail. And when we come to sound, there was like special hardware dedicated to sound, which helped with the processing, which was nice. And in this game specifically, I think the most important visual aspect is the cell shaded style of art that they used, which was, I think we're fans of, but the reception I think was mixed, because people who really loved like Ocarina of Time were like, WTF is this? but I think it looks really great.
Part of the problem, quote unquote, with the reception was that there had been like a tech demo.
Yeah.
That showed like a more realistic, like Link dueling with the Ganondorf or something, and people thought that was going to be the next game, but it was just a tech demo.
Yeah,
So.
So there was a hint at that, and so people were very disappointed. But I guess to explain cell shading, I can't say this, cell shading.
Shell shading.
Shell shading. She shades seashells. But yeah, like cell shading is a style where instead of rendering everything as like a gradient shadow, so you can Google this and see what I'm talking about, or you can just look at the Wind Waker graphics versus like Twilight Princess or like Ocarina of Time. But basically, like you have a reduced amount of like shading. So instead of having a gradient from one color to another, you have like one dark pattern, one dark color to represent a shadow. So it's a bit more of like an abstracted style, and kind of looks like a style that you would use for like an illustration, like a comic book or something, where it's sort of like more abstracted rather than more realistic. But yeah, that's what cell shading means when people talk about it. But yeah, it's very obvious what the style looks like if you look at graphics from this game. This was interestingly the first HD remake of a Zelda game for the Wii U, and it was suggested because of the cell shaded graphics. Like it was easier to upscale them because they're simpler. Apparently that was why it was like suggested that it should be one of the earlier remakes, HD remakes, which is very interesting. So polygons were used, and so basically you have like more depth of polygons, so you can have more depth in what's shown. There's a really interesting article that I'm going to put in the show notes that was written by Rodrigo Capetti that talks about like the GameCube console in detail. But one of the things that's very interesting is that he has these like charts or like little tabs in this like blog article that show like a comparison of an N64 like model of like Mario versus the GameCube, so you can really see like the definition side by side, which is pretty cool. Visually, in terms of the style, my take is that Wind Waker was inspired by a lot of different types of folk art. I think specifically Celtic art, which is very commonly pointed out as like one of the influences of Wind Waker. Specifically in the cover in the English version, the word Wind Waker is written in this like script that looks like kind of a Gaelic font, like a rounded Gaelic font, which is very interesting. And then you have in the game, there's a lot of these sort of like organic as opposed to geometric, so like rounded, natural, like flowing, trailing, abstract spirals and shapes, which is really common in like Irish traditional art or Celtic art.
Like in the bomb smoke.
Like in the bomb smoke. Although I think the bomb smoke is actually kind of inspired by like floating world Japanese art, like the curly kind of smoke. What I was actually thinking was like the sail, the image on the sail, and some of the other imagery. The sail has like a 3 curved kind of like wave design. You can Google this. There's like it's like a triskel or triskelion shape in Celtic art that's like 3 spirals that are connected together. And I think it kind of alludes to that. There's like the triquetra, so like the knotted 3 pointed like knot, like a Celtic knot or a Trinity knot, is really common. That's not actually shown in any of the things, but I think it's kind of replaced by like the Triforce. So this connection of like the 3 pointed knot and the Triforce is there. And then I also think there's similar themes to like Maori art or like oceanic Pacific art in those kind of like repeated wave patterns and stuff. This kind of art would be familiar to you if you look at like the designs in like Moana. That's like drawing inspiration from that kind of art, where it's like these like wave motifs, abstract and curved geometric motifs, which are pretty cool. Which makes sense because like both like Ireland and like the Pacific, they're on the ocean. You have all these like islands. I think it's kind of like drawing on these similar like themes. But I do feel like there's kind of a mix of different like traditional and folk art. Like one really big one is like the fairies. The fairies are obviously inspired, or like, I don't know, they're obviously not drawn from the same inspiration as the fairies in Ocarina of Time. They're represented with 4 arms, which apparently I have done some research. I don't know that much about like Hindu art or like representation, but often like Hindu gods are represented with 4 arms. And like the the fairies blow a lotus at you, which is obviously like an important flower and symbol in Hinduism also. I think the fairies might actually be like a reference to like Lakshmi, which is very interesting. Hold on, let me read to you about Lakshmi really quickly from the Wikipedia, obviously. But like Lakshmi is the goddess of wealth, fortune, power, beauty, and fertility and prosperity. So I kind of feel like there's a connotation, like there's a link there, right?
Yeah.
But there are other influences from other cultures too. Like the King of Red Lions is kind of drawing inspiration from like a Chinese dragon boat or an Okinawan dragon boat, like a, or maybe even like a Viking boat. But I think it's like really specifically like a dragon boat. He has like that red face. And it's kind of like, I mean, he calls himself the King of Red Lions, but it's kind of a dragony lion. I don't know.
They look kind of similar in Eastern depictions.
Yeah, they do.
Dragons and lions, their heads anyway.
Or like lion dogs, dragony lion. Like it's kind of like crossed mythological figure. But I think they're drawing inspiration from that. And then you also have other inspirations from like Japanese traditional art and stuff. Like you have Zephos and Cyclos that are obviously, or like, I don't know, obviously it's probably another word. They're like a allusion to Raijin and Fujin, the god of thunder and wind from Japanese mythology. So they're like depicted as frogs in Wind Waker, but they arrive on clouds. Like Fujin controls the wind. That's where you get the like, that would be like Zephos probably. And then like Raijin comes in like a thundering, swirling gale. So I thought that was kind of cool. And their names are references to like Greek mythology, like Zephos is reference to Zephyrus. Cyclos, I guess, a reference to cyclone, which I try to find the etymology for, but it's not necessarily directly from Greek mythology. But that was interesting.
Yeah. I think the going back slightly, I think the figurehead on Tetra's ship looks like a Viking.
Yeah. Yeah, Tetra's ship, the pirate ship has like a whole different aesthetic visually and musically also that is more like a European style, I guess. We talked about how like this game had some influence in Breath of the Wild, and one of the things that I think really shows that is the Tower of the Gods. Because the Tower of the Gods has this like kind of like also an abstract geometric sort of like circles and lines pattern that is heavily used in Breath of the Wild later. And I think it's more obvious in Breath of the Wild, but it's more like, it's more obvious in Breath of the Wild, but I think in this game it's kind of reference to like what's called the Jomon period, like prehistoric Japanese art. If you Google Jomon, you will see very easily on Wikipedia like a pot that has these sort of like or like on in Google searches that has this like geometric circle and line shape, which we'll talk about more when we talk about Breath of the Wild. But I think the Tower of the Gods is starting to like develop that aesthetic as it relates to like the gods of Hyrule, which is kind of cool. And then it gets carried into Breath of the Wild. So yeah, I think there's like a lot of references. So like before in Legend of Zelda, we saw a lot of references, visual references to like, I don't know, like Western European traditional things and like Christian imagery. And now this game is like using a lot of different imagery from like sort of different, like a variety of different traditional like folk art and mythology, which is kind of interesting. It all kind of like works. Like you don't really think about it, but I was just like, oh, we got like lotuses and we got like this other thing in this game. It's very interesting.
Yeah, I think it especially works for the like the setup of this world because it's like a bunch of scattered people who had to like rebuild from like, the scraps of their world that were remaining. So
yeah, Hyrule was like kind of more cohesive. Now everything is very scattered, and like you're sailing like pretty vast distances in the sea, or like what can feel very different and isolated. And so like you could be like different like cultures developing and different traditional art developing, but then you still have this sort of like cohesive overall look in the game, which is pretty cool. And there were like references to, we already talked about this, but like references to Ocarina of Time, like the stained glass in Hyrule Castle, and there's like the mark of the Gerudo on Ganondorf's outfit on his like sash, I think on his belt. So there's some touches from Ocarina of Time as well. And then some other things that I thought were interesting and of note is that like Ocarina of Time, but to a much greater extent, the environment, there's different like visual technology allowed for enhances in the environment. So like islands can be seen from far away. And actually, apparently, the reason that the Wii U allowed for swift sailing is because the islands wouldn't load as fast on GameCube. So you couldn't actually approach them faster. They wouldn't load fast enough. So part of the reason you can swift sail on the Wii U is because you have more, the islands like load faster. So you can actually do it, which is cool.
Yeah. I love being able to see the islands from a distance.
It's cool.
Like the Tower of the Gods, especially, you can see from all over the place.
So far away. Like it's very considered. I know people hate sailing or whatever. I mean, I like it, but the experience of sailing on the sea is very considered. I think it's much more, there's more detail than in like Hyrule Field or Termina Field or whatever. In addition to just day and night, there's also weather, the water patterns change. So like the water can appear more choppy and less choppy. Like it can be flatter. This game also has a lot of use of like particles, like floating particles, especially in the like Wind Temple, the one that's like got all the green particles and stuff. The one you have to go to with Makar. And in like the Deku tree and like the woods and stuff. And I also really like the curling smoke and cloud details that we talked about.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. That's my official analysis. It's pretty cool.
It makes me think of like the Disney movie Mulan did similar things, like stylized smoke patterns and stuff.
Yeah. And like I said,
to kind of imitate the art style that they were inspired by.
Yes, like a more East Asian, like Chinese or like abstracted illustration style, which is pretty cool. Yeah.
Okami also does it, which is also another substrate.
Okami is 100% based on floating world illustrations. Like it's definitely drawing on that style. Yeah. Those little smoke curls specifically are really enjoyable, and they're like everything, like everywhere. Like the smoke that's coming out of the like pots that you can warp through. Oh, I don't know if we talked about that.
Oh yeah,
I guess, but there were warps in other dungeons, but this is the first. No. Like there's warps there are some warp areas in Ocarina of Time, but these like specifically this like pot that's in Wind Waker is I feel like very specific. But yeah, those have like this like curling smoke that unfurls out of them, and like when your bombs explode, it's pretty cool. It's all over the place. That effect.
Yeah, when you're on like the little like spooky submarines and ghost ship and stuff, there's like a spooky fog that also has the swirls in it.
Yeah, and the one that makes you go like it makes your controls backwards in in the dungeon. And like the fire around skulls and stuff. Yeah, it's all like that effect, which is pretty cool. There's also the wind blowing, which I didn't mention in terms. Also, there's like in addition to water and like particles and smoke, you can see the wind blowing. Like so, there's wind movement in the environment, like in Link's clothes, like Link's hat in particular, and in the environment. But also there's like the depiction of the wind, like the kind of lines that are moving through the air, so you can see the direction, which is important because you have to control the wind, which is pretty cool. Yeah. And then the zombies that are creepy.
It looks nice.
It looks nice. I was gonna say, do you have any other things to say? And then I was like, well, it looks nice. It's a very detailed game. And like the cell shading hasn't lost its appeal. Like the style.
Nice. It's still very pretty.
Even in, like we said, it's been 20 years since this game came out, and like, they added visual effects, and it's like upsized to be HD and whatever for the HD version of the game. But like, basically, the original style and stylistic choices the team made still like make the game look great to this day, which is really nice. Yeah, I think it's getting more recognition now. Yeah. Do you want to talk about any other visual things or music? I can talk about music. I have things to say. Were there any like places that you really liked or like temples that you really liked?
That's a good point. I mean, for me, I think the music in the game is really good, and that like gives a lot of the for me those are the more memorable parts of it. I mean, I think the general style, and like there's definitely scenes I remember a lot more because of how animated it is, and like and all that. But yeah, I think for locations it's the music, but for the events, I think you got the graphics really do help play a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
I sent a picture in our little chat, but I really like the little fire volcano island, how it like the lava pours into the sea.
Yeah.
Stuff. It looks really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Any of the interaction between like this ocean and like islands was cool. Those ones in particular, that one, like the ice one, because they have like an effect on the water.
Mm-hmm. And I think the game does a good job of just like the dynamic movement of the camera, like when you get hit, like when certain things explode and things like that. I think it's definitely more noticeable than in the previous games.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you know what? I mean, both the sound, but also the visual of when you're in the first Forsaken Fortress and the moblins catch sight of you, or they didn't catch you, but they're like onto you. You know, there's a little sound.
Yeah,
and the camera shifts really. It's really jarring.
Yeah, the camera zooms in on them or like you. Yeah, it has a very specific perspective shift that it does.
Yeah. That was really, really powerful, I think.
It's real good at making you let go of that control.
Yeah, you're like, I'm not moving.
Nope, nobody's here.
Nobody's here. Don't look at me.
Yeah.
Don't look at me. That's true. That's a really good visual effect. When you get hit, the camera also like sort of resets to a neutral angle that's like not right behind you. Like I'm thinking particularly in the Orca fight when he hits you. And in the Ganon fight, it also uns the targets when he's like being attacked, like after the light arrow hits him and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, but the effect of them noticing you sneaking is really helpful, and you have to sneak like multiple times in this game.
And then, another thing that we didn't talk about is like the animation for like your sword combos. Because you like if you repeatedly press the button, you start doing like these combos, and it typically ends in like a spin attack or like a jump attack or something like that. You know, it's very flowy, I think, in how it hits. It's very nice. It definitely adds a lot more fun to sort of just plain sword combat.
Yeah, I think the sword fighting is really fun.
Yeah, yeah, it's really simple, but all the like visual and auditory flourishes and like the parry button and everything make it feel really good.
Yeah.
I think that in Ocarina of Time, the sword fighting, it's variable, so like you can slash across or slash down and spin attack, but it's like one animation with consistent timing. Like there might be some like easing, so like speeding up and slowing down at the end of or during different parts of the animation, but I think in Wind Waker it's like more, the motion is more variable, where it's like it takes some time to speed up and then he has to like slow down or like overdraws, like in the spin attack he hits the thing and then spins a little bit more and then stops. Like there's more the animations themselves are like more dynamic. I think that makes it, I think that contributes to the feeling that you're talking about. So like there's more variation, but there's also more variation in the actual movement, in the speed.
Yeah, because like in Ocarina you could swing 3 times, I think, regardless. And there's usually it's like back, forth, and then one that's a little bit more a little bit different. So like if you do stab, and then stab, but he kind of like swings the sword a bit more higher up, that sort of thing. But I don't think there's any enemies that you can hit 3 times. I think if one of those hits, you hit. Otherwise, you know. But like whereas this one, you can hit 4 times in a row, and each one connects and does damage. Whereas that one, 1, 2, 3, and if one of them hits, they're probably invulnerable, not going to get hit by the next one. You know.
That's interesting.
Except I guess bosses, I guess you could hit, but yeah. So like even that aspect of it it feels more satisfying to actually have a combo that does something, you know.
The other thing also is like, remember a long time we talked ago about how like enemies can keep attacking you, but when you swing your sword, you have to stand still, especially in like Zelda 2. One nice thing about this game is like when enemies swing at you, they don't move as much. I noticed. Like it was a lot.
Generally,
the combat was a little bit fairer. Like that they had to pause, and like they don't always hit you, and like so maybe you don't hit like the mob ones with the long like pikes, but they also sometimes don't hit you. Like it's a little there's more variability, but it's also it seemed a little fairer to me. On both sides.
Sometimes they hit each other,
yeah,
which
sometimes
is
they
funny.
hit each other. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had Dark Knots kill each other. I was like, good. You take each other out. Yeah.
It's like the only way I could do those rooms where if I had like three of them on me.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
I would try to like trigger one at a time, but it's like, but sometimes they would get them all, and I'd be like, I don't even know what to do now because.
But you also like you can only target one of them at a time, so like you can only parry one of them at a time, which is like it's hard.
Yeah, and like if you pick the wrong one, then you get hit by the other guy who moves first, and like sometimes your parry would run into one of the other guys, so you didn't actually like, take off his armor and stuff.
Got to get behind them and slice off their armor. Yeah, it's hard.
But yeah, just let them knock each other out and then clean up their remains.
Yes, exactly. Or like one drops their sword and then you knock out the other sword and then they go pick up the other one's sword. That's really funny. Yeah. The combat is really fun in this game. I know people were like, "Oh, I really like." Well, I think it was Link to the Past. They like really like the combat, but I think it's really fun in this game. Like I think there's a lot of like variability. It's not too hard. But there's still times that are challenging, like when you have 3 Dark Knots in a room, Dark Knots in a room. Or like all the ones that you have to target individually when you have to like, when Hyrule Castle is fucked up and you have to go in. The first time that happened when I was playing this game, I was like, how am I going to do this? Like I can't fight all of them at the same time. Like it's impossible. So you have to strategically go like 1 by 1 or 2 by 2 and get rid of all the enemies. Yeah, the combat's fun. And the visuals around the combat are fun. And, like, the parry is very obvious. You get, like, a sound effect and the button, like, glows. You have a lot of cues. Yeah, and, like, the target hovering and stuff. I feel like that was in older games, too. But, yeah, you can see all the targets if you have, like, a bunch of mobs surrounding you, which is nice. And then kind of, like, pick which one you want by looking at them. Seamless transition to talk about music.
Let's do it.
Seamless. The music this time was composed by multiple people, so not just Koji Kondo. I think like the team is expanding. I feel like at this point, like, so first of all, the games are more complicated. There's like more memory and stuff to work with, so you can have a bigger team because you can have more complicated music. And like I think Koji Kondo himself is starting to move into like a more like oversight type of role. He was credited for music. The credits for this game were like not as many. I couldn't find as many like song specific credits in my usual source. Like for example, Koji Kondo's only credit that I could find was the grandma theme song, and I was like, he must have written more than that. And I could only find in total like maybe like 5 or 6 specific songs, and it's like there's like four composers, so there's no way that like, and the soundtrack is massive, so there's no way that there's only that many credited songs, but. Yeah, so it was Koji Kondo, Toru Minagishi, who we talked about before, composed all the KK songs, like a bunch of the KK songs for the original Animal Crossing. And he also later worked on like Twilight Princess and other games, so we'll talk about him more later. And then Kenta Nagata, who composed the main theme, which is very important, which we discussed. And like at least one of the he was credited in the source where I get all these credits from is like the Nintendo fandom wiki, so I guess it's like fandom collected, but yeah, for some reason the amount of specific credits was very limited. And then Hajime Wakai was the last person who was credited, and one of the songs that he wrote was like the boss fight music, for example. And then there was also significant sound effect programming for this game, which we sort of alluded to earlier, and the people credited for that were Masafumi Kawamura, Taiju Suzuki, and Takahiro Watanabe. So, and they've worked on like various other games for Nintendo. But yeah, so okay. So I have another technology break discussion about
Can we just talk about how your note,
which one?
How it says technology?
Oh yeah, I wrote technology. I forgot these notes. I wrote them for myself.
Was it intentional?
Yeah, I always write tech. Not always. When I think to myself, sometimes I call it technology because I think it's funny. Like, technology. Like, when something's not working. Like, technology. Anyway, yeah, no, technology. So the technology. Yeah, so GameCube technology break. once again. So we talked about this with the N64, that basically like the N64 didn't have a dedicated chip that produced waves or read sound or had any dedicated sound like processing. But the GameCube included that, which is great because it basically allowed for many samples to be able to be mixed. And so that means that we can have richer sound. And you can also see an example of this in that like Rodrigo Capetti's analysis blog, where you can hear like the same or like similar music from two different games, which is a Paper Mario example, Kayla, for for you, of how much richer the sound can be. And I find like the one reason also for this is because like in the N64, the sound that comes out of the cartridge, like the sound that you hear, had to be written and like programmed to have all those samples played at specific times. As opposed to with the GameCube, you could just like do what's called streaming, where you just like play a recorded MIDI or whatever, and it didn't have to be like programmed in the same way. So therefore you could have richer sound and it was easier to produce. So it was pretty cool. Because of this technology, with Wind Waker, you have a lot of like things that sound like full orchestral arrangements, and like you have a lot of strings and like percussion. And then the really cool technological advancement was that the music is very responsive to gameplay, and sound effects can be incorporated into the background in music. So what I read in the Zelda encyclopedia is that the arrangement and tempo of songs respond to what Link is doing. And then sound effects were made and incorporated into the background music with like a specific program that was built for this. And so one really good example of this is the battle music. The battle music has this like background music, but when you as Link swing, and it's very subtle because Link is also screaming at the same time. So there's a lot of different sound effects that are being layered, but there's this like extra sound effect that's added that is fit into the background music, which is really cool. And that's all done programmatically, which is a really interesting musical advancement. But yeah, I thought that was really interesting. In terms of like inspiration, again, we're drawing from like a variety of different traditional music from different places. So the opening is obviously fiddle or like folk music inspired, like Celtic music inspired also. And it uses traditional instruments that are also part of like Celtic music. So like flute, drum, like harp sounds, and like a fiddle sound. And the Earth God's lyric, so medley song, is the first phrase. And then the Wind God's aria is the second phrase, the one that's like... And a lot of the music is heavily inspired by kind of like Celtic music specifically, and like traditional folk music. We also have like medieval European music, especially when they're talking about Ocarina of Time. So that like the cutscene, but the extra scene that's in the opening, if you leave the opening screen on, that talks about the background of the game, about the like legend of the hero of time, uses this like medieval sounding music.
My poster.
Yeah, your poster. Yes.
That's one of my favorite versions of the title theme of Zelda.
So good. The tower, there's also a lot of like chanting used in other parts of the game. So this is also like medieval European inspired music, like Gregorian chant, where the only like quote unquote instrument, like the only voice is like people's voices, and it's not like lyrical with words. It's going like ah. So like that's used in the Tower of the Gods. It's used in like the background when you're with
ancient scatting.
Yeah. Ancient scatting. It's not, well, they didn't really have a lot of structure, so it's kind of like scat, but like not exactly. Like as I say, in the background with Jaboon, and when you control the wind, like when you use the Wind Waker, it's like a chanting sound effect that's played at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have other traditional music from other places, like Dragon Roost Island. Sounds like it's sort of inspired by like Spanish music. There's a strummed guitar. We talked about that with like the Gerudo music before. But you can hear it very clearly.
It's reminiscent of the Gerudo, Gerudo Valley theme, while being like obviously a different song, but just the instrumentation is similar. So.
There's also castanets in this specifically, and castanets are like a very strong. It's a very specific folk instrument to use. So you can hear this like clicking sound like castanets in that arrangement, which is cool. And then I think the Forest Haven music is inspired by like traditional Indian music. So you have this like sitar-esque string instrument sound. And I don't know how much of these are actually like sampled from instruments or what was played or whatever. I didn't like go into a deep dive like with Ocarina of Time. And you also have this drum pattern in the background that is like a specific sound to me that sounds kind of like a tabla. Tabla is like a Indian drum that has this like flexible top. I mean, all drums have like a flexible top, but it has this flexible top that's bent, so you get this like warped percussive sound. I can guarantee you've heard a tabla, even if you don't know what it sounds like. You've definitely heard one. It's like this, like makes a kind of like, I don't know, bouncy kind of drum sound. I don't know how to describe it. And warped.
For anyone who played Diddy Kong Racing,
is there tabla somewhere?
Yeah, I think the genie, when you talk to him, it starts with that sort of thing. I just listened to it Forest Haven, and I'm like, oh yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
It's a sound that I can't imitate with my mouth, so I apologize. But you can Google it, you definitely, it's recognizable. I can guarantee you've heard it. But yeah, it's pretty cool. So I think there's like a lot of music that's pulled from different traditional like folk music from different places, which is pretty cool. And it goes along with the like various themes that I think we talked about in other visuals, and works well with the other visuals. We also had some repeats from Ocarina of Time, which is pretty great. Like the inside of the house music, which you'd also recognize. The fairy music. All the sound effects are like enhanced versions of the sound effects, like the heart piece or like a fairy hearing you. There's like the daybreak on the ocean, which is similar to a daybreak in Ocarina, like in Hyrule Field and Ocarina of Time. I think that the ocean song is kind of a abstracted version of the Hyrule theme song.
Yeah.
Like the Hyrule Field theme song, because the Hyrule Field theme is like do 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 do, and then the ocean theme is like do 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 do. So it's like notes are removed and they're rearranged. The I think they follow like a similar pattern, but like the melody is different. So that's my, I don't know, hot take. It's my take. Oh, you also had Zelda's Lullaby came back. And I was really excited about that because obviously I didn't know about that song before because I hadn't played Ocarina of Time before I played Wind Waker the first time. So I was like, we're like, it's Zelda's Lullaby. You can see all the main place the first time you hear it, I think, is like in Hyrule Castle. So you're in the room with all the stained glass. And I was like, oh, cool. It's just like Ocarina of Time. All the references to Ocarina of Time are here. Oh yeah, and Ganon's theme comes back, obviously. And that kind of like dark Hyrule Castle music that seems to come back in a lot of games, like the do 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 do, that song. It's not really Ganon's theme.
Yeah, is it the Temple Time theme or like a variation on that? It seemed
Could
like
be.
that, but
I don't remember. I only remember the Temple of Time. Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember how the melody goes. I just remember that it's like also those like disembodied choral voices in the It sounds like the Hyrule that like Hyrule Castle when you go in definitely sounds like either like an abstracted version or a manipulated version of the Temple of Time theme from Ocarina of Time. And it has a really interesting sound also because it's degraded. It's either like sampled or degraded. So when you're in before you like break the seal, when everything is still in like black and white, it it plays like a degraded version of the song where the ends of notes are cut off, or like not the attack, but like the end of a note that's played is cut off.
Mm-hmm.
And then after you go and like all the things come back to life, then it doesn't play that version again. It plays like a full version. So yeah, it also has a manipulated version of the song that's the like Temple of Time-esque song of Time-esque song that plays in Hyrule Castle, but it's degraded when you first go in, and then not degraded when you after everything returns to like its original state, which is pretty cool. I liked it a lot when I heard it. I was excited. And this game also, so in addition to like the sound effect, like the sound effects that we talked about that were kind of like the same as before, like it pulled in, there are new ones like the sound of seagulls, which I learned from the Legend of Zelda Encyclopedia notes that says that it was processed elephant cries, which I think is hilarious. It's like,
yeah, that's
why not a seagull? Why an elephant? Anyway, whatever. I don't know. This also says
I think they should have used laughing gulls.
Should have. Apparently the sound of walking through the desert was made with potato chips, but I don't remember a desert in this game, so I guess they mean walking on sand. I don't know. Whatever. It's fine. I thought that was
It's like
interesting.
Mulgera's.
That's true. Walking in the sand. Yeah. And yeah, obviously music, like with Ocarina of Time, music is a big component of this game because you have these, the wind waking baton to conduct and manipulate things in the game, like people and objects. And you conduct these sort of like spectral performances with the sages. And then you also have the sacred instruments. So there's like the fiddle that Makar plays like a cello. And then there's the harp. Medley has like a lyre type harp that she strums, which is pretty cool.
It's just such a great detail. I know we talked about it a couple times, but the fact that like it was a violin to Makar's ancestor who was a little bigger than him, but he's so tiny that he has to play it like a cello.
And the spirit plays it like a violin in the like up on his shoulder in the cutscene. It's like, oh, that's cute. It's even noted in the like concept notes that are in like the Hyrule Historia or whatever. I guess it's the Legend of Zelda Encyclopedia that's like Minecraft plays this like a cello or whatever. So
yeah, it says it on his figurine too in the Nintendo gallery, which we didn't really talk about. But it says like it looks like a cello, but it's actually a violin.
He's so small. He's even smaller than Link, and Link is small. The scale in this game is really cute. Everything is like, in addition to being cel shaded, it's also very like chibi-fied, which we haven't talked about. They have like big heads and big eyes and kind of like smaller bodies proportionally. Whereas like Ocarina of Time has a more realistic head to body height ratio. Yeah. Yeah, those were my music notes this time. It was great. My opinion is that they're great. And there's a lot of interesting influence in the music in this one, and like varied influence in music. And they're good. Even the like more background music where there's kind of just like atmospheric noise, like in the Earth Temple or whatever, where there's like zombies and stuff, and it's really quiet. There's no music on the ocean at night, but then there's like the big one during the day. So again, like also use of low intensity sound is also noticeable in this game too.
Yeah, this aesthetically, this game is just top notch. Like, I can see people having quibbles with parts of the gameplay and stuff, but it's just like the visuals and the music are just like absolutely stunning. Like,
absolutely, yeah.
I'll fight for it. It's a great game.
Yeah.
And I think people...
It's like every time I load this up, I would stay on the title screen for a while just listening to that theme. And like,
I'm trying to learn to play it on guitar. I got the like first half down, but I have trouble with the second half because I can't... It's hard to break up those like triplet notes. It goes... like and I don't know, well, like I can kind of imitate it, but I can't pick it apart. I totally forgot that before we started this. I bought like a piano book of the music so that I could see what some of the music is, so I can read it. It would just take me a long time, and I'm annoyed. But yeah, it's really fun. Very charming song.
Yes.
And I really like that the reveal that like the sage songs are what comprise that song, and they go well together. They have like they're a great pair. It's a great phrasing. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's just like I love the title theme. I love the variation of the traditional Zelda theme played over the like backstory.
Yeah, that's
tapestry thing, and I love Dragon Roost Island. I love the theme. There's just so many good tracks in this one.
Yeah, I have
the ocean theme.
The characters are good. I like the Rito. Oh, I love all the characters. I like Makar's jingly noises. Although he does get fucking annoying to control, which I complained about before we started this, but I'm complaining about it again for the record. I want everyone to hear my complaints. Like, he's cute, but then it gets kind of annoying when you're trying to like, I'm like, okay, can you like walk faster? Like follow me in this dungeon, or I gotta just like pick him up to carry him everywhere. Although I do like how he held on to the King of the Red Lion's head when they were sailing there. Like Medley sits on the side, but when I got on the boat with Makar, I was like, where is he? And it took me like a second to see him on the top. I was like, oh, he's hanging on.
Yeah, and I sent you guys a video, but it's like I immediately, did the warp song, and it's like your boat spins so fast, and he's around. They're clinging to the top of the head. I'm like, oh, hold on tight, buddy.
It's so fun. Yeah, I enjoyed all their sounds and all their faces and everything about this game because it's a great game. And I'll fight anyone who wants to disagree. I mean, what? Kayla, this is your favorite game, you said.
Yeah, it's
when
great.
We started. Like, no additional comments.
Yeah, I hadn't played it in a while because I knew we were going to be doing this series. So, like, a couple times when I was like, I should play Wind Waker, I was like, no, I'm going to hold off. And so it's really fun to play it again.
I hadn't played, like, I just played through the one time a long time ago. And, like, I got to, like, near the end, I got to, like, Puppaganon and then kind of just, like, died. And I was like, I'll do that later. Then never did. So I remembered many, many areas of the game. And I was like, oh, yeah, I remember this room and I remember this thing. And, oh, there's, like, a thing over here. And then when I got to Ganon's castle, like, I didn't remember that part as clearly. But, I mean, you only do it, like, one time where you spend a lot of time in the other dungeons. At least I did. Not on this playthrough because I knew how to do them. So it was, like, very efficient. But,
yeah, I talked a little bit about it before we recorded, but like when I first played as a kid, I got to about the Tower of the Gods, and then like I played it later on, was a little older, and got mostly to the end, but I didn't actually finish it until I was in college. And that was when I I was playing it on the Wii, like the GameCube game in the Wii.
Oh, in the Wii. With my controller stretched out across the room in my dorm room, and I knocked it off of my window because I like pulled the controller back instinctively while I was doing something and just yanked the whole system off of my windowsill because I had it precariously perched. I feel like even though the GameCube controllers were longer, like they still weren't long enough.
No.
Yeah.
They're never long enough.
Yeah, I broke the little flappy bit that covers the controller ports, but I didn't. The system was fine.
They're pretty indestructible. Like Nintendo's good at making consoles that are designed to be for children to own, where they can like, drop it or whatever, and it's still fine. At least the later ones.
Yeah,
maybe not a NES, but I think the N64 is pretty sturdy. You only got to take stuff out and blow it in sometimes for it to work.
Yeah. I really know where is a good place for this, but I kind of want to talk about the Wind Waker influence on Breath of the Wild because
I don't know. Should we talk about? I don't know. I think we can talk about it.
Yeah,
if you want to,
it's nothing spoilery.
Yeah.
Except for like the first couple hours of the game, but
yeah,
just another thing because I don't think I've played Wind Waker since Breath of the Wild came out. So playing it again this time, I was like, there's a lot of Wind Waker influence in Breath of the Wild. I know there's like influence from all the games, but there's a notable amount of Wind Waker influence. It's like the obvious ones are like the Ritos and the Koroks are back in Breath of the Wild, and the Deku Leaf is an item again.
Yep.
Which doesn't serve the floaty purposes since you already have your hang glider, but it does the same like wind blowing thing.
Yeah.
I think the whole thing with the King of Hyrule is very similar in both games. He's like a lingering, regretful spirit who disguises himself as some other figure at first and guides you.
Yeah.
I think all the like little islands across the map, and especially like during the Triforce quest, is kind of like the little shrine mini dungeons in Breath of the Wild, where you just kind of it's like one quick like puzzle theme that you finish and then get a reward for.
Yeah, the tasks that are in
a whole
there,
dedicated dungeon.
The tasks that are in those like small islands are very similar to the like Sheikah shrine tasks.
Yeah, There's like one specific thing you're supposed to do, and that whole area is themed around it. And like usually, as soon as you get in there, you're like, I kind of know what I have to do here. I just have to figure out the specifics.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. We talked about the kind of like ancient technology aesthetics of the Tower of the Gods, and that kind of goes forward into like the divine beasts and the shrines and everything. And I think the use of the Picto box in the Nintendo Gallery is very similar to the Sheikah Slate camera app and the little compendium that you can fill out.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think the concept of also like exploring in general, like, there is that in Ocarina of Time. It's just the map is like not as big, but we're starting to like work toward the scale of Breath of the Wild, like even in a smaller way where you can go sail to islands and it kind of feels like you're far off, even though you're probably really like transitioning through different.
Yeah, it's a pretty large open world with like until you go into dungeons and stuff, no like loading screens or anything.
Yeah.
I think it's loading slowly as you get to places. That's why there's like the sprites and stuff, but or like not sprites, but like the smaller
but it's like
islands.
you don't like hit a loading screen and then you're at Windfall Island or whatever. It's like you sail right up to it.
Also, the best experience compared to like PlayStation, like never having a loading screen, almost never having a loading screen. On Nintendo stuff, like basically ever.
You could like read a chapter of a book while you're waiting for some of those old PlayStation games to load.
I'm just saying it. I'm calling it like
I say it with affection, but it was a lot.
It's a lot. But then once you're in, then it's like fine. But
Also, the Divine Beast Valmetto is obviously named after Medley. But that's just sort of the kind of reference that all of them have.
Yeah, they definitely all have references. And like the music is also carried through. They're like remixed versions of the song, like the theme from the Rito Island.
The Rito village is similar to Dragon Roost. Yeah.
So Dragon Roost, when you go in Breath of the Wild, it's like a much slower version of the song, and it's played with different instruments. Like that one specifically is like remixed from there. Because I remember it very clearly being like, oh yay, it's the like Dragon Roost Island theme. I love that. Yeah, I think other music is definitely remixed in Breath of the Wild, but specifically that one comes from this game. And like Beatles in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
Important. But yeah, I think the aesthetics, that like the Tower of the Gods aesthetic is really enhanced in Breath of the Wild for sure. And even things like the environment changing more, and like the wind, like in Breath of the Wild, you have to do that one, like the Lost Woods thing where you have to follow the wind and stuff, and you can see all the wind blowing Link's clothes and blowing the grass, and like I think like those effects, and like inside the shrines there's like dust particle effects in Breath of the Wild, and I feel like aesthetically it's like pulling some like things conceptually from Breath of the Wild or from Wind Waker. Although I haven't played
weather changing,
getting struck by lightning, for example. I played some Twilight Princess, but like Twilight Princess is kind of more like Ocarina of Time in that the aesthetics are not, it doesn't seem as driven by like the environment. Like it's almost like you're in this like sort of removed, and you are in like the Twilight. The Twilight environment is very like different, and like it has environmental effects, but it's not the same like focus as Wind Waker and Breath of the Wild, I feel like. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll play that soon. I might revise.
I think they're both. Yeah, I think Wind Waker and Breath of the Wild, they're both like the world is more uniquely a character in both of those games. Like it always is to some degree, but in this series, but there's definitely more focus on like the Great Sea as an environment, and that Breath of the Wild's Hyrule as an environment.
Yeah.
Rather than just kind of being a place you pass through to get to the next place. Yeah.
Like we talked about, like people loved riding Epona through Hyrule Field and stuff in Ocarina of Time and really enjoyed that, but I just like fucking hated going through there because there's like just nothing but enemies. Like there's the like grottos where you can go and get stuff, but even then it's like, whatever, it's like a hole you jump in. Like it's not the same as like things you can interact with and like find Koroks and stuff in Breath of the Wild. I mean, obviously like the, technology didn't accommodate for that, but same with Wind Waker. There's like a lot of, even on like smaller islands, there's like stuff you can interact with. Like that's not part of the
there's really a lot
quest.
to do. People complained about it. It's like a big empty sea, but it's like there's an island on every square, and then there's like the little platforms and the submarines, and Even
can find
silly little
treasure.
things like going between the flags and
Yeah,
on the barrels and like hopping on the barrels to get rupees and stuff.
Yeah, they added an activity for boredom, like to relieve boredom on the ocean. And then once you get the warp, which you can get pretty early, which I got as soon as I possibly could, like you can travel very quickly. Like you don't have to sail forever and ever, and it's not that bad. Oh, you mentioned the Deku Leaf, but I think like just the concept of like floating. I guess you could do that in Majora's Mask. Could you do that in Ocarina of Time?
No,
you can't like
you
glide.
have to hover boots where you could just like not fall for a little bit. And then in Majora's Mask, you really only had the
you can
the
become
Deku
the
flowers.
Deku form. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you can take the Deku boy form, and then you get the little propeller. So
Yeah, the Deku Leaf, like the way you use it in Wind Waker is definitely like that carried to the
paraglider.
forward to the sailcloth in Skyward Sword, and then into the paraglider in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, it's not like a direct, but it was an influence in like Zelda games to have like another way to like break your fall or glide farther or whatever. So there's definitely a lot of influence from the story, as you pointed out, and the aesthetics, I think, in Breath of the Wild, which is what makes Breath of the Wild great. And you could pick up like weapons and stuff.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure you can in other
weapons.
games. But like this is like the first Zelda game where you can pick up enemy weapons, and you can like, other than sticks, and you can like and you can use them, you can wield them, and in Breath of the Wild you can also do that. It's like a main, like you get loot from enemies in Breath of the Wild. It's like one of the main points. You withdraw the sword that's healed also. Although you do that in Ocarina of Time also. So actually you do that in like every game. But it's a good game.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I was really looking forward to this one, and I played it like very efficiently because I was super excited.
Yeah.
And like I also, maybe the combat's easier, or maybe it's just because I played this game before, but I like basically didn't die. I had like 3 fairies on me the whole time and like almost never died. I died in like the Ganon fight at the end. I think one of them. Yeah, the first time.
I don't think I ever fully died. Maybe early on when I only had 3 hearts or something.
Yeah.
I was like falling into lava, but like I know I came close to losing all my hearts in Phantom Ganon, and I lost all my hearts and had a fairy activate once during actual Ganon. But,
Yeah, I used a couple fairies with actual Ganon and died one time. Had to, like,
and I was scared I was going to lose another one, so I had grandma's soup, so I had a dose of grandma's soup toward the end.
There was like a fairy in one of the rooms in the lead up to Ganon's tower, so I just went in there like 3 times because I had 3 bottles and got 3 fairies, and that like tided me over through the fight. But I died a lot in Ocarina of Time.
Had to take a hit of grandma's
Soup. I didn't even go back for grandma's soup this time. I remember doing that before, but I was like, but I can just carry a fairy, and like I'm not even dying that much. And there's like pots everywhere. Like there's actual drops all the time. So it's not hard.
I had a fairy on me
manage.
when I was there for Jaboon anyway, so I was like, I'll go visit grandma, get some soup.
Yeah.
It's kind of a sad little bit. Like she's like worried herself
bereft.
literally sick over her missing grandchildren. So.
I know. Yeah, that's why I didn't want to visit her, because I knew that. And I was like, I'm going to go do something else that's fun and not be sad. Mildly sad.
And then she sent you a letter where she's like, grandma has to be strong too. I sent you all this, like all the money I could save up. And it's like 20 rupees. And you're like, oh, grandma, thank you.
Cosm, where does this rank on your games? Because your favorite is Majora's Mask.
Yeah,
right?
I don't. I think my instinct is telling me to put it under Ocarina of Time, but
So you're
I
like
think
Majora's Mask, Ocarina of Time, Wind Waker.
I think so. But like, I think I know that it's a better game than Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, but nostalgia value is important.
Yeah.
This is the first game that me and Kayla played, so
Yeah.
you
But
know.
like I like again aesthetically and the music, like I love it so much. I want it. I want to love it more. I don't know.
You can love Ocarina of Time. Ocarina of Time is also a great game.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was like, that's pretty rich competition to
Right.
to be ranking against. So it's like any ranking there is pretty good.
Between Ocarina of Time, Wind Waker, and Majora's Mask, I'll take any of them. As I'll accept.
Yeah, those are all fantastic games.
Yeah.
Like I could easily see any one of those being someone's favorite game of all time with like no question. I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. Like,
Yeah. I don't have a strong opinion about Twilight Princess or Skyward Sword, except that I wasn't that enthralled by them playing them the first time. But that doesn't mean they won't be good. It just means that I was in college and nobody had time to play a full Zelda game. At least I didn't.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to playing Twilight Princess again. I think it's...
Yeah.
I feel like it's sort of like a little later than Wind Waker, kind of went through the same thing. Like, I think it had more positive reception at the start, and then I think people didn't like it as much, but I think it's starting to come back again.
Yeah.
So, I'm kind of interested to
I also
go into
loved
that and take a look at it.
I loved the music from Twilight Princess because it's really weird and good.
Yeah,
especially like the
definitely
Twilight.
some really good songs.
Yeah, the battle music when you're in the Twilight is so bizarre.
It's bizarre, and that's what makes it great.
Yeah,
it's pretty
and, like, Minda's a great character, so it'll be
I love Minda. Yes,
and I keep having the Kakariko Village music from that specific game pop into my head lately, like do 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 do, like where it starts off with that, and then kind of. It's like I keep trying to think of a different Kakariko Village, and then that version pops into my head. Like, no, not that one. But
I keep having Wind Waker music stuck in my head, so you know. But I was writing this, so I was making my notes and listening to it, so that's understandable. Yeah. Out of the games we played so far, Wind Waker is my favorite, but I stand by my Wind Waker, Majora's Mask, Ocarina of Time rank.
Yeah.
Before.
Wind Waker goes up to the top for me, but otherwise everything's the same.
I didn't even ask you. I just wrote it in because I knew. But I was like, I need to check with Cosm. I'm not sure what he thinks.
I was good and waited until I replayed it to pop it at the top of my list. But yeah, it was always going to be at the top of my list at this point anyway.
I don't know. We'll see with Breath of the Wild, but Breath of the Wild, I have such a fondness for that game because of like being able to explore so much. Like it's the game that Wind Waker could be if there was technology to do it, where you could sail around and like go to different places and whatever. But
I think I just have trouble mentally comparing Breath of the Wild to the other games because it's like
different.
so much its own
yeah.
True.
Because I'm like I really love Breath of the Wild. I'm like, do I like it more than Wind Waker? And I'm like, can I even compare it to Wind Waker?
Even the same?
Like, yeah,
that's true. You could compare Wind Waker to Ocarina of Time, but can you compare Wind Waker to Breath of the Wild? A good question.
Yeah,
I don't know. We're in a whole other world of technology now compared to probably any even like Wii games and Wii U games. Anyway, speaking of technology, next time we're going to play a Game Boy Advance game.
Whoa. Before we move on, actually, I promised you guys a story about Wind Waker.
Oh yeah, I totally forgot about that.
Yeah.
You didn't talk about SpaghettiOs, so I was...
So, a friend of mine hates the Wind Waker.
How rude.
I know.
Yeah, why are you friends with them? Out of curiosity.
Every time I bring it up, he groans. And he's never actually really played the Wind Waker. He's never big on like Nintendo games and Zelda in general.
Why are you friends? I have questions.
He's my oldest friend.
That's fine, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess. Okay, but what's the story about Wind Waker?
I brought my GameCube over to his house, and this was when Wind Waker had come out, and I was stuck at the Forsaken Fortress. I didn't know how to get past up to get your sword. But it came out. I was really excited to play it. You know, we played it a little bit together, but I really, really wanted to get past that, and so I just kept wanting to play it. And I think he wanted to move on. I didn't. Yeah, basically, just our friendship was almost ruined because of that game.
I thought you were going to say, then I left and I never saw him again. So you're saying you had a fight about Wind Waker? Sad?
Basically, yeah. And yeah.
But has he given it a try?
No, it's not his style of game, I don't think.
I want Ben to play Wind Waker.
Yeah.
I think that he would like it.
I think he would.
You hear me? You hear me, Ben? It's very like...
This is your peer pressure.
Right. It's direct sequel to Ocarina of Time. It's not even like Majora's Mask where it's like a weird different thing. It's like Hyrule's underwater now. Like, you... And then you have this like, the fighting's fun, the story's good. It's just as... It's very similar to Ocarina of Time. It actually is the same structure when Ben talked about, on the Ocarina of Time episode, collecting the 3 the sacred stones.
Yeah.
I thought the exact same thing was going to happen when I collected the 3 pearls in this game when I played it the first time. I was like, oh, the game's over. I did everything. And then you're like, what the fuck? There's so much more to do. It's like a third of the way through the game or something. So that also blew my mind. But so I had a similar experience. But
we didn't mention, this game is very not dungeon heavy. We've had a lot of games where there are a lot of dungeons and all that, but like
You got the 2 original where you get the pearls. You got the 2 with the sages, and then like Tower of the Gods, and
Dragon
then Forsaken
Roost.
Fortress a couple times. So and then, there's other things. There's like the tower that you need. Forgot what it's called, but where you fight the enemies, which isn't quite a dungeon, but
Oh yeah, the Savage Labyrinth. Or...
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
there's a couple.
there's a couple things that kind of add up to really dungeon-esque, but
It's a lot more
really,
overworld heavy.
Yeah, it's very very.
Just
much
another way
so.
it's similar to Breath of the Wild.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's something I've seen people criticize about it, but I've never I've always liked the overworlds more than the dungeons in Zelda games.
Yeah.
So,
But also, we did the Link to the Past had 14 dungeons or something.
Too
That's
many
that's
dungeons.
too many dungeons. It had too many dungeons.
Yes.
This game has the right amount of dungeons, and Ocarina of Time had the right amount of dungeons. So maybe it had more, but I don't think it has that many more locations. The Goron place. There's under the well, in the graveyard.
Well, I think basically how it works out is there's 6 dungeons as an adult, and then each of those
6
has
as a
their own
child.
child.
yeah.
So it technically has 12 dungeons, but something about how it's done, it doesn't feel like the 14 in.
They're short.
Yeah, especially the child versions of the dungeons are
Yeah.
much more simple.
They're simpler. Also, one of them is connected. Also, there's more variation. So the problem with the game where there's a gajillion, where there's 14 or however many there are, is that they're very similar because it was the SNES game or the
Yeah,
first
there's
Game
only
Boy
so
game.
many
Which
different
one?
tile patterns you can put on your dungeon.
And
in a
different
2D game.
sprites. All of those dungeons in Ocarina of Time have different enemies, right? They all have different small enemies and bosses.
And they were different to navigate. Some are more vertical, and
Yeah. No, I mean
some are
Yeah,
more
the
around a
water
central
temple.
room, and yeah.
Everyone's favorite. Yeah, there's more variation, and Wind Waker has a lot of variation in the levels as well. There's not one where the gimmick of the dungeon is the same as any of the others.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to use multiple items. Sometimes you just use the one to get around. Yeah, you still have to take your boots on and off in the inventory. I guess. Well, I mean,
you only have to do it twice. I guess you have to do
right.
it a lot in the Wind Temple, but it's just to spring those things. So
It's not that big of a deal. But to do that, you have to have
and it's also
spring
much
and the
easier.
leaf.
And it's also much easier in
HD with the
HD because you got the touchscreen item changing.
True. Yes, you can just drag. I totally forgot the HD touchscreen had a stylus, and I was like, "Oh yeah, that's right. We used to do that with Nintendo things."
Yeah, I just use my finger now.
Yeah, I mean, you can just touch it. It's pressure sensitive, but I totally forgot that it also had a stylus, which is really funny.
It's I have an aversion of putting my greasy fingers on there, so I'd use the tip of my fingernail to try and to drag the items and just do it really briefly.
I just didn't touch it and just used the Pro Controller or handheld it.
It's great.
It sure is.
It's the best, and everybody should play it, even if you don't think you'll like it, because it's too cute for you, or whatever the fuck your problem is with Wind Waker. I'm attacking you. Listen. Anyway, there weren't that many good quotes from the end of Wind Waker, so remember to look forward and walk a path of hope, trusting that it will sustain you when the darkness comes, and then join us January 1st for Minish Cap.
Yay.
There are some that are really good from the other one, parting doesn't have to last forever. It's up to you how long or whatever.
Yeah.
When it was let's get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
The water's coming or whatever. And then the rest of that scene where Link and the rest of the end of the cutscenes, there's no more dialogue. They're just waving or whatever. I was oh, okay.
Sailing off to find New Hyrule.
Yeah. To find the land from Breath of the Wild, question mark.
Yeah.
Or wake up.
We didn't really talk about the second quest in this game.
Oh yeah.
After you beat it once, you can wear your pajamas and understand Hylian, basically.
Right, that's right. I forgot you can see the dialogue. You can wear your pajamas, understand Hylian, and you can't, you get less hearts, or you
And
only
you take
get
double
3?
damage.
Oh, you take double damage.
You take double damage, and hearts don't drop from containers. Fairies will spawn from ones where they're guaranteed to spawn from, and that's about it. So
I don't like that. I have a
Yeah.
new save slot on my thing, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to play it.
Yeah. It's really cool with the Hylian because it's like super spoilery what those guys are talking about because they're just like all sorts of talking about like what's going on. Like
I know. I wanted to read it so bad.
yeah, like when you're talking to Jabu and he's like, "Is this the descendant of the hero?" And he's like, "No, this is someone new." And then he's like, "Have you found Zelda?" And he's like, "Yeah, I think I have." And it's like,
whereas in the regular game, it's like you just see, "Oh yes, I think I have," or whatever, and it's like a very like mysterious, like conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And like
funny.
the Deku Tree starts addressing you like you're the old hero time.
Master Lonk. Lonk,
Yeah.
it's been a long time.
I love like space in the Deku Tree. He just starts spewing ancient Hylian at him, and he's like,
Yeah.
What? It's one of his great expressions.
Yeah.
All right. Join us January 1st for Minish Cap.
Yay.
Be there. Or be square.
We're gonna be tiny and
We're going to be on a handheld again. I don't either.
Tiny. Yeah.
We're going to be tiny. The hat has a bird on it. What more can we ask for? Anyway, we'll see you then. Thanks for listening.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Which is a shame because the GameCube's a great console.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's such a good console. And it had a lot of...
Games. No.
I have some tech notes to discuss. It had a lot of games.
Yeah.
That's true.
It has
Had
some
a
of
lot
my
of
favorite
franchise
games.
like Metroid and Wind Waker's one of my favorite games. And it
Yeah.
had Melee, which I think was like probably one of the most popular GameCube games, Super Smash Bros. Melee, and all major entries into Nintendo's like main franchises like Mario.
It had a lot of weird games too.
Yeah.
Like one of my favorite games is Chibi Robo, which I still play
yep.
every now and then, which is a GameCube exclusive. The first Pikmin was on GameCube.
Right. I forgot about Pikmin. It's a great console. People just don't know. I don't know. They wanted like high res graphics and DVD players, which is what you got with
Yeah.
the PlayStation and not with a GameCube. Nintendo was like, we're doubling down on not doing that. And
Yeah.
then many, many years later, they sold the Switch, bajillions
Yeah.
of Switches. So I guess it worked out.
Yeah. And graphically, I think most of the GameCube games hold up way better than their contemporaries on the PlayStation 2 and Xbox,
Yeah.
just because of
Yes.
because they were less focused on like cutting edge, hyper realistic graphics, which do not age well.
Yeah.
No, and especially Wind Waker, I think has gotten more, like, I don't know, reputation, has generated more acclaim after its initial release because of the graphic style rather than at the time. Because people were like, I want another Ocarina of Time. Nintendo was like, how about Toon Link? And they were like, no. And then years later, they're like, this is a
Yeah.
beautiful game, basically. So
Yeah, it still looks
Which is
great.
the
Like you
accurate
can plug in the
interpretation.
original and it still looks amazing. Like
it looks good. The HD remake is really, really nice.
Yeah.
But, the original one looks great too.
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah. I like the HD remake mostly for the like quality of life changes.
sailing.
Like if they had done nothing to the graphics, it would have been fine.
Yeah. But they added like glow and like other
It does look
things.
pretty,
Yeah.
but
It looks pretty.
they didn't really have to do anything.
No, but the quality of life things are a better,
Oh, yeah.
notable improvement.
Mhm.
You all both played this on
HD.
the Wii U?
Yeah.
Yeah, so did I. Oh yeah, I guess I should say that. This game was remade and re-released for HD. So it was originally released on the GameCube in 2002. And then I don't actually remember, I didn't get the date. So much lazy research this time. Here.
It's because you were too busy playing the game.
13, I want to say.
Yeah, I beat the game.
13, I'm sorry.
Oh, to 13.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Wow.
good job. I didn't realize. I remember getting the Wii U around when I started my first job. So it was around 2013. Or maybe we got it in 2012. And we like waited in line at a building to get it, which wasn't a long line, but it was a line.
I didn't get the Wii U until this game came out because they released like a special edition with Wind Waker HD and the Hyrule Historia digital edition already pre-downloaded onto it.
Oh, I
And
didn't
it's
realize
got-
it came with that too.
Yeah, and it's got pretty little gold like Zelda symbols
Yes.
on the gamepad.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. And we got it with the initial release and got Zombie U or whatever the fuck games were out for the Wii U. And I was like, I can't possibly. I was like, I can play this watching other people. And then I picked it up and I was like, I can't do this. It's too stressful. Somebody else play this game. That was my first experience with the Wii U.
We use an interesting system.
It didn't have a great library.
Yeah, it's got some really good games. It just doesn't have a lot of games.
Yeah.
It's a really. I have like mixed feelings. If you, I was just thinking about this today while I was preparing for this because I like played the Wii U and like if you line up all Nintendo's consoles from like the NES to the Switch and you look at the Wii U, you're like, we don't fucking need this because like,
well, they ported almost everything onto the Switch because almost no one got a Wii U and almost everyone owns a Switch.
Yeah.
So there's very few games that are just on the Wii U.
yes, but that's because the Wii was like a incredibly popular system also because it had like a completely different interface and like was really interesting. But then like we wouldn't have the Switch without the Wii U because I think the Switch was really, or the Wii U was like a proof of concept for like what Nintendo thought gaming in a house would be like in the future, which was accurate. They had done like all this home research that proved that people wanted to share the TV. And like the Wii U came out at a time where cell phones were starting to increase in popularity. So like you were having in-home experiences where people were in the same space but not consuming the same media at the same time. And so that was like the research they leveraged to like release the Wii U, and it's very interesting.
Yeah, in a way, it's a really cutting edge system. It's just a little too cutting edge.
It is, and it was, but they did that with the Wii too. Like nobody knew how to make a motion control game. Like the Kinect had been out for like maybe a year or something, or maybe it even came out after. I don't even remember.
Yeah, Nintendo's always been like a bit too ambitious with its weird ideas.
Yeah.
I mean, they were trying to do like glassesless 3D in like the 90s.
Yeah, and like the internet connected, like the Nintendo like DD 64 DD. Yeah, and there's like subscription gaming that came with that, where you get games delivered once a month. Like they're all good ideas. They're just like way too ahead of their time. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like the ideas are there way before the ability to actually do them.
But then if you look at something like a PlayStation, like not to diss PlayStation, but like it's the same console every time. It's just like higher resolution graphics. Instead of a DVD player, it has a Blu-ray player. You know, like it adds connectivity or something. But it's like really more and more iterations of the same. Like the hardware gets better.
I mean, they add peripherals, but like,
Yeah, but like, you know,
Yeah, it's like it's a good solid system that they make steady improvements on. But there's hardly any like big, I don't want to use the word gimmicks, but you know, something like big changes, big ideas.
Nintendo has like interface changes every.
Like they've done the PS5 has some neat things with the rumble in their controller and stuff, but it's not like big stuff that they advertise on like the Wii and Switch and stuff.
They don't have a kickstand. What are you talking about?
I saw some little graphic that showed like evolving like game controllers for each like major console. And the funniest things were the PlayStation one that like doesn't change at all. Like
Yeah.
And then the Nintendo controllers that are like woo all over the place.
Yeah.
It's like this one's square, this one's oval, this one's got a weird prong in the middle. This
Yeah. PlayStation was someone they hired like an industrial. They must have. I'm speculating, but they hired an industrial designer that was like, for ergonomic reasons, it must be shaped like this. And now every controller is shaped like that, basically. Where it's like it's two prongs. The prongs are straight. The buttons you can reach the buttons with your thumbs. Like I was whinging while we were playing this game to y'all about the Wii Pro controller, how it's like curved out. It's not ergonomically designed for your hands, at least for my tiny hands. And I was really pissed off about that, which I didn't notice that much at the time because I didn't play that.
I still think the PlayStation controller needs to change the position of its left joystick.
Don't disagree.
Your thumb rests comfortably on the D-pad. It should rest comfortably on the joystick
stick.
because almost no game uses the D-pad.
That's why the Nintendo Pro controller is the best controller, because the sticks are in a place where you can reach them with your thumbs, and then the buttons are in places where you can also reach them with your thumbs an appropriate amount.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that's my rant.
Anyway, Wind
And then
Waker.
yeah, we could talk about Wind Waker, but anyway, that's my rant about the Wii U and how it's important.
The gamepad's surprisingly comfortable, though. Like, I played the
It
whole
is.
game on the gamepad.
Nice.
Like, you'd think it'd be bulky and awkward, but it's actually... Like, it is a little bit, but it's way more comfortable than you think it would be.
It is also, I would say, well ergonomically designed because it is straight, and so like you can fit your fingers under there, and it has like a ledge.
It's with the
where you
little
can
the
prop
little
it.
ledge on the back.
Yeah, it has so you can stick your fingers underneath, so it's like comfortable to hold sort of semi-vertically, as opposed to like a Game Boy where it's completely flat, so your hands are kind of like pincered the whole time. You're using the back of your hand, like your fingers, to balance out the pressure of your thumb. But with the like Wii U Pro controller, it's resting on your like index fingers while you're moving your thumb, so it has like a little bit more. This is my unprofessional interface analysis of the controller. I personally bought a Wii U Pro controller that's shaped like a GameCube controller because I was really mad about or not mad, but I was really annoyed with the Wii U Pro controller digging into my palm while I was trying to do the thing with Orca where you have to Z-target him.
Oh, yeah.
Which it turns out you don't have to. I learned playing this game, you don't have to hold the Z-target, and I was really blown away. You can just tap it on and off, at least in the HD version. Anyway, I guess we can talk story first. Rants. This is my seamless segue to you, Kayla.
Okay.